issue with YouTube and the live streaming at the moment, so we're recording and making it upload it. Apologies, I've tried a few times.
All right, so apologies, just for everyone's info, the meeting is not live streamed. There's some technical issues, but we are recording it and then it will be uploaded immediately after. Right, and are we all set?
You're ready to go.
We're ready to go. All right, welcome everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here today at this meeting of both the Waipuna Halswell-Hornby-Riccarton and Waipapa Papanui-Innes-Central community boards. The boundary between the two board areas is along the middle of Dean's Avenue. So proposals for Dean's Avenue pedestrian safety improvements fall within the jurisdiction of both our boards. The boards are therefore meeting together so that both can hear all relevant information at the same time before each board makes its decisions. Now, to be clear, each board will consider and decide the proposals that fall within its ward boundary. The meeting will be chaired by myself. I'm Marie Polisco, chairperson of the Waipuna Halswell-Hornby-Riccarton Community Board, and Emma Norrish here, my left side, chairperson of the Waipapa Papanui-Innes-Central Community Board. Now, the proposal outlined in the second report on the agenda, Riccarton Craft Brockworth Place Street Renewal, is wholly within the Riccarton Ward and will be considered by the Waipuna Halswell-Hornby-Riccarton Community Board only. So as I mentioned earlier, the meeting is supposed to be live streamed, but we are having technical issues. But it will be recorded and will be available immediately on the Community Board's YouTube channel. If you are sitting in the public gallery, thank you for attending. We welcome your interest in our discussions. Please note that the public gallery should remain quiet during the meeting. Toilets are located in the corridor outside the meeting room. In case of an emergency, please exit via the door at the back of the room. There are 2 staircases to exit the building, and please follow the staff directions in case of an emergency. During deputations, the timer will be operating and we will have it 10 minutes for each deputation. Right, so Karakia. Pakataka teho ki te uru, pakataka teho ki te tonga, kia makina kina ki uta, kia matarata ki tai, e hia akimana te atukuka, e tio, e hohu, te mariora. Thank you. Before we move on to our first item on the agenda, which is the apologies, I'd like to introduce first to everybody, for everybody's benefit, the members of our board, and then we'll go on to Emma's board. We can do the round table. Helen, you can start, please.
Helen,
just name and word.
Hank Bank Hornby. I'm Tyler. I'm the councillor for Riccarton.
Deb Mora, Community Board, Halswell.
Kia ora, Mark Peters, councillor for Hornby.
Andre Moore Halswell.
And Marie Polisco for Halswell.
I'm Emma Norrish. I'm the chairperson of the Waipapa board, and I'm from Papanui. And I'm going to throw it over to Simon because I can't actually see who exactly is there. So, Simon.
Right.
Here we've got Gamal.
Member for Papanui.
Can't
You're a community board member, Central.
Kia ora, Sunita Gotham, Community Board Member, Central.
Hi, Ali Jones, Innes Community Board.
Jake McCullen, Central Ward Councillor.
Now, Pauline Cotter on Zoom, Innes City Councillor and Deputy Mayor.
And apologies, I forgot Gamal, please. Right on Zoom.
Kia ora, everyone. Gamal Foda, Riccarton Community Board Member on Zoom.
Thank you. So we move on to the next item. It's apologies. I've got for the Waipuna Halswell-Hornby-Riccarton Community Board, I've got an apology from Sarah Brunton, and then an early departure apology from Debbie Mora. I need a mover and a seconder. Mark and Hank.
So I've got an,
Oh. All right, yeah. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you.
right, we've got, for our board, we've got an apology from Victoria Henstock, and an apology for lateness from Emma Tordell, who is en route to the boardroom now. So do I have a mover and a seconder for those?
All of us.
I think I saw, do I see Ellie and John?
Yeah.
And John, okay, we'll put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye. No, not me, yes, but-
That's carried.
Right, just for their board. So me for our board and Emma for their board. Right, now we'll call for any declarations of interest from the Waipuna Halswell-Hornby-Riccarton Community Board members? None? Right,
Huh?
Mama.
Yeah. We're not allowed to call someone else's conflict.
No, I'm just asking.
no.
Any declarations of interest from Waipapa board?
Nothing from this room, Emma.
So sorry, Gamal's not a conflict in this, is that what we're hearing?
Doesn't work there anymore. Nah.
That's what you heard, Ellie. Okay, thanks, Deb. Yep.
No, we're saying we're not able to call out somebody else's conflict of interest. Has to be the elected member himself or herself who has to declare yeah. Right, so now we move on to deputations of appointment, by appointment. The guidelines for a deputation, I can just go through it as follows. Speaker may speak up for up to 10 minutes, although at the discretion of the meeting, more time may be allocated. No more than, that's for public forum. Presentations must not criticize elected members and or staff, be repetitious, disrespectful, or offensive. Speakers may include a visual presentation within the allocated 10 minutes. At the conclusion of the presentation, if the time limit has not expired, the chairperson may allow board members to ask questions of the speakers. Questions will be confined to obtaining information or clarification. So any debate by members on a matter raised in a deputation must occur at the time at which the report on the matter is on the meeting agenda is discussed. So first up, we have Mary O'Connor, local resident.
Mary isn't here. Today.
All right, Mary O'Connor is not here right now. So we've got Grant Reed. Is Grant here? Welcome, Grant. Come forward, please.
Sorry, where do I stand?
Just have a seat, please. Thank you.
Okay, and this controls the PowerPoint, is my PowerPoint there?
I'm bringing it up for you.
It's a bit touchy.
Okay, yeah. My name's Grant Reed. I am a local resident. I live right by the main crossing at the moment. I understand that lots of people have submitted in support of this proposal, and I can understand why, because it promises safer and easier access to the park. It's very important, and I wholly support it. Unfortunately, I think the proposal as configured actually does the opposite when you consider the general effect across the whole length of Deans Ave that's affected. It also causes, it will also cause problems for traffic because the only way of getting out of residences on Deans Ave to the south, or the mosque, for example, is to do U-turns, and that will become increasingly difficult. So I'll just quickly go through that because we don't have much time. And I'm actually not sure which version of the... Okay, so look, I cross this road often. I live by the main crossing. I can watch it, and I cross it probably daily, and I cross it at least weekly with 3 grandchildren, and they're assorted bikes and what have you. So I'm very familiar with how to cross this road and what's easy and what's hard. And I'm very concerned that this will make it significantly harder. So I'm speaking from a pedestrian point of view. This particular crossing has got a lot of pedestrians, bikes and scooters using it, particularly at peak time. So from a pedestrian point of view, what matters is the gaps. How long are the gaps? What safety margin do you have to cross? And from my point of view, from our point of view, I would say a smooth traffic flow, which looks beautiful in a traffic planning model, with continuous flow of cars evenly spaced at a moderate speed is the absolute worst nightmare. You can't get across it at all. So just moving on. Sorry, there's a bit of a delay on this, is there?
Pointed at the computer.
What do I point at? Up there? Okay, I'd just like to focus on one critical period. Friday afternoons from 2 o'clock on. There's a session of peaks. It's pretty much over by 5. It's not the classic that you might expect for the rush hour. Certainly 8 o'clock in the morning, which was originally analysed, you can walk right across all 3 lanes and walk back again without encountering any problems. That's not our peak time. This is our peak time. And this is going to become more of an issue with intensification. There's going to be more and more people trying to commute to the city, walking and biking in future, particularly on this crossing, because everybody, all the new developments that we're expecting that are going to be on Brockworth, they're all going to have to come out at this point and cross. So, and there's some families like me. And the critical question for me is, will the gaps in the traffic flow still be long enough to allow safe and convenient foot and bike access to the city? So this is what we're talking about. It's just about where the cat is. And that's what it looks like at 2:15 on a Friday afternoon. Now, I have to say, that is really easy to cross because that traffic is absolutely at a standstill as far as the eye can see. So all I do is you wave at a driver, and even if they see that the lights have turned red up in front, they're prepared to stop because they know they're going to have to stop. So this actually works at that time. Now at 2 p.m. on the other hand, the traffic is still flowing. It's quite a lot more difficult. And I watched I videoed this. It's been a lot of time videoing this over the last month or so. I watched 3 pedestrians in succession running across in gaps across there because the traffic isn't stopping. So it varies a lot during the course of the afternoon. And what I'm concerned about is that those same conditions will occur on the other side if it's narrowed down to 1 lane. And there won't be the saving grace that there is here, because the first red light they'll see is way down at the cycle crossing, because pedestrians, under this plan, pedestrians don't have priority at any of these crossing points. So, at 3:30, I was going to show a video, but there's no time. The single lane is only crossable when the traffic stops. The double lanes, though, are easily crossed between the pulses and the traffic. That's controlled by the lights at Riccarton Road. They are quite long. I mean, the longest I recorded was 57 seconds that you have to wait in the middle, but then there's a good long gap. Typically, it's more like 30 seconds, and then there's a good long gap. It's quite easily crossed. But this plan involves merging traffic. I know that the merging point is supposedly, a little bit further along at Freiburg, but any sensible driver, when they see that merge ahead, is going to merge as soon as they can. That must slow the traffic down, and it must make these pulses longer. That pulse in particular is 41 seconds already. How long is it going to get if you merge a second lane into it? Everybody's slowing down, and everybody is not focused on pedestrians or cycles or scooters or anything else. They're focused on merging. So, just look out if you're trying to cross there, which we will be, and a lot of others. So, and we've still got 2 lanes to cross. So the crossing itself may meet standards, and I'm sure that the competent job's been done on that. But if it implies traffic merging across this crossing and the Freiburg crossing, I don't think that's best practice. I'm sorry, I can't imagine that the national standards specify that that's a good idea to merge traffic across a major crossing. So down at the new crossing, the proposal does have some good features: creating a pedestrian refuge in the median, building up the pedestrian zones as far as the cars are parked at the moment, and connecting to a shared pathway in the park. All excellent features, and I applaud. But we understand from staff, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, so that plan would create a much better crossing than those further north, and that's a good thing. Happy with that. So under that plan, if you would just do that, the traffic would flow very much as it does now, and the pulses passing Brockworth would reach the new crossing without much modification. There's a little bit of joining and leaving of that queue for the side roads, but basically they arrive in much the same shape, a bit more ragged, but it'll be easy to cross those 2 lanes of southbound traffic there, just as it is at the existing crossings at the moment. However, there's a saying, the perfect is the enemy of the good. That's a good plan. The plan that we're being offered is a perfect plan. It's got extra safety features, which we're told are needed to meet national safety standards. But those changes undermine any gain so severely that I believe the overall impact of this proposal is going to be negative, not just for drivers, but especially for pedestrians and cyclists. Adding a speed bump in the northbound lane is going to slow the traffic going through there, which is going to reduce the gaps between the pulses and make it harder to cross, I believe. Constricting the southbound traffic to one lane is definitely going to reduce the gaps and for safe crossing both there and at all points north and south that are affected by that narrowing. A speed bump at the crossing itself will further slow the traffic and take it even longer for traffic to get past, so those gaps will be even shorter. It's pretty simple mathematics and observation, I believe. I'm sure that a fancy model will change that slightly by saying, oh, they'll bunch up a bit or whatever, but that's the basic assumption. So this more perfect proposal, in my opinion, I'm sorry, it implies longer, slower pulses at the new crossing. You're only going to save 3 or 4 seconds by narrowing it down, 3 seconds at my walking rate, maybe 4 for a slower person. Traffic doesn't have to stop because the pedestrians don't have priority. You've got a speed bump slowing it further. I believe it's going to be harder to cross there than in that plan A if the pulse extends by just 4 seconds. Now, we're talking about a 41-second pulse. I just don't believe that it's going to extend by less than 4 seconds, compressing it into one lane and slowing it down. It just has to get longer. Now, the same is going to be true of all single lane crossing points, both north and south of there. They've got no safety features except white paint under this proposal. People will still cross there. They'll do what they can to cross there. They have to. They're not going to spend 10 minutes walking down to the mosque and then back up again to cross. And the shorter gaps are going to provoke more risk taking. And I think that's going to more than offset the safety advantage of the design. So basically, the community asked for the council for easier and safer access to Hagley Park. And I applaud that goal, obviously. Half of this proposal delivers that goal. But the features added to meet the national safety standards and tidy the park furniture or whatever else will actually make access harder and riskier. It's going to be harder and riskier than Plan A at the new single lane crossing, definitely, and definitely harder and riskier than the status quo everywhere else. And the vast majority of people are not crossing at that particular point. So total overall picture, sorry, it gets harder and riskier to get to the park. For park users and commuters. And it'll get even worse for other users. If you add lights there, that'll make it nice at that particular crossing, but all the other crossings are then going to face even more problems. So sorry, do you want?
Oh, no, after.
Excuse me, you've got 20 seconds left, and if you have
Okay, so look, the proposed package I think will create problems that could probably only be fixed by adding at least one signalised 2-lane crossing further north. And basically, if I can just get to what I believe that the board should be doing is not committing to doing to this proposal or any other until there's a detailed analysis of the gaps available to cross or turn at the 3 main crossing points. And in particular, I think it would be very easy to do a physical trial. It only requires some traffic cones. The city has lots of traffic cones, you may have noticed, and it's not going to be greatly affected by that. So. It just may be, sorry, it may be that the plan doesn't, I mean, if it checks out and everything works fine, I'm happy, I'll rest my case. I'll go. If it doesn't, it may be that there's no option that meets the national standards. And look, I want to sympathise with staff because I realise that they're in a cleft stick. Community wants something and the national standards say something, and it may not be possible to deliver both of those things, certainly on the available. Now, the rest of the slides, and if anybody sees them, I'll just flick into that. They just are diagrams of what that merging might look like.
Right.
So it's up, if anybody actually has access to them.
I'll actually move in extension of time.
All right. Okay. So if I just go back, I'm sorry. I realise there's quite a lot here. And I'm sure it's quite surprising to some people to think that this could make things worse. But basically, that's the kind of situation we're facing at the moment. Brockworth. We've got a fairly solid pulse of in the middle lane, it's about 30 seconds. And sure, it's not a whole 30 seconds of two lanes. Maybe half that time there's two lanes being used.
Okay.
But just imagine what happens if you take that arrow, the 15, and add it onto the back. I've only allowed 3 seconds there for turning traffic, and that's really light because it generally often takes more than 3 seconds for them to make up their mind, bearing in mind that they're pushing through a line of moving traffic on the other side. That gap gets a whole lot shorter. At the moment, it's perfectly adequate to, say, take 8 seconds to cross. That gets a whole lot shorter. And so that last slide there, I'm sorry, somebody flicking those on. That's all right, I don't mind, but the last slide is fine.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay. The last slide, what I'm saying is you merge that traffic. It's going to take longer to go past. You're going to have a shorter gap to get through. And I also think the traffic's going to be so distracted by all the merging and what have you. It's a very dangerous environment for pedestrians and cyclists and scooters, all of them across there.
All right, thank you, Grant. We're out of time already, and
Thank you for the extension.
Yeah, the extension's been given, and
Sorry, seconded.
yeah,
Yes.
and Debbie seconded it.
Yeah.
So we've.
Okay, so I've had my say.
And I'd just like to remind the members that the presentation is available on the hub. It is there.
Yep.
Yep. So all right, thank you.
Yes, question.
I do have a quick one.
So did I.
Sorry, we don't have time for questions. We have to move on to the next one. We extended for him to finish his presentation.
That's fine.
So thank you. Thank you, Grant.
Thank you for your indulgence.
You're welcome.
What about it?
The next we have Joseph Fullerton. He's going to speak on his own behalf and on behalf of Greater Otautahi.
The ducks.
Welcome along, Joseph.
Good afternoon, members. So I'll start by speaking on behalf of Greater Otautahi Incorporated, and we'd just like to come out pretty strongly in support of option number 1. We represent a pretty large contingent of members, some of whom live or have lived on Brockworth Place. I myself live on the corner of Deans Avenue, and we've also engaged with people outside of our group who regularly use or live in the area, including other young people who live on Brockworth Place, and with the mosque itself. And we've got a pretty clear picture from what we've done in terms of research that the status quo right now is not particularly good. Deans Avenue is pretty unpleasant to cross. You have to go a pretty long way to find even a remotely tolerable one. And often, a lot of the time, you're not even sure that you're actually going to get in to Hagley Park if you're crossing from the Brockworth side, because quite frankly, the people who park by Hagley Park are pretty prone to parking in front of the ways into Hagley Park. So now going into the specifics about our submission and the responses to it, I assume I can take it as read. So we acknowledge that installing further traffic calming in the broader area is like out of scope for this project. But we would like to say that we are strongly in support of any future traffic calming measures in the Hagley Park area to enable safe access to Hagley Park. As we see it, Hagley Park is a vital amenity for pretty much everyone in the area. So we think it's really important that people have safe and easy access to it. And that is the starting point for our submission. And that is why we also want to query the staff response to our submission about widening the staggered crossing. It was stated that it doesn't need to be widened so that people can walk across with their bicycles, because 400 metres away there is a major cycle route link. We actually don't think this is sufficient. We think that 400 metres is a pretty long way to walk, especially if you live on Deans or in Brockworth around the immediate area. That could be as much as, an 800-metre detour to go 400 metres down and then come back. So we'd actually like to have some consideration for widening these staggered crossings so that cyclists can get across and to increase the safety factor. We also support the future signalisation, or rather future consideration of signalising the crossing. So we're strongly in support of installing the ducting. We have no further opinions on things like adding or removing more car parks beyond what's already been expressed. But we would like to bring the focus back to local residents and our needs. Because Deans Avenue is a really busy road. It is subject to gridlock a lot of the time, and it's really difficult to get around. If you're crossing Deans Avenue, then you're probably not guaranteed a way across at any time of day. because quite frankly, the traffic is not predictable. Anything that increases traffic predictability will make it easier to cross, which is why we support the speed bumps specifically. And finally, we'd also just like to make a quick note that the staff responded to our note on trees, saying that there would be trees installed as part of the South Brockworth renewal. Please do make sure that these are installed because these are quite useful for an area that is quite often pretty grim with a large, really wide road that's just gridlocked all the time. What else do I have? Let's see. Yeah, so we do also believe, noting that Deans Avenue being gridlocked all the time is actually not being used for the benefit of the local community. This is being used by people from outside the area who are going to places outside the area. And quite frankly, we think that these needs for traffic flow reasons are subordinate or should be subordinate to the needs of local residents who want to have easier access to the places that we want to go or easier access to Hagley Park. That concludes my remarks for Rachel Ototahi. In a quick personal capacity, I will make a note. Living on the corner of Deans and Brockworth, I can hear a whole lot of traffic noise all the time, and especially at night, you've got a whole lot of noisy boy racers coming down the street, making a whole lot of noise and keeping you awake. As I said, the speed bumps can only help in reducing that noise level. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. I'll call on, and I'll invite questions from the Waipuna board, and then Emma will invite questions from the Waipapa board. I've got Mark and then Helen.
Thank you. I guess seeing so I'm from the Waipuna board, this may be out of my jurisdiction, but I'd like to ask the question anyway of you. The proposal to take the 2 lanes down to 1 is on the Waipapa side of the road, so that's their jurisdiction. But do you think that could potentially worsen the gridlock?
I mean, quite frankly, no. If the road is already at capacity, then there's not much more that you can do to make it worse. And gridlock results when the road is at capacity. So I don't see that as being a problem.
Cool.
Thank you, Helen.
Yes, just on the issue of the platforms and boy races, I've door knocked along there at one stage and people were really upset about it. My view is that the boy races will take it as an opportunity to make more noise. So do you have any evidence that the boy races will actually comply?
Well, that's an interesting question. I myself am not a boy racer. One of my flatmates, I believe, is a former boy racer, has expressed a general belief in my view here.
It's going to be quieter rather than noisier.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I might emphasize reformed.
I see someone has got their hand up, so I'll hand over to Simon.
Yep, great. Thank you. Ellie Jones from the Innes area. I was just interested in your comment that the road is used by people from out of the area going to places outside the area. Are you saying that people using the road who may not live there or go to places there should have less of a say or investment in what happens with the road? I just wondered if you could expand on that a little bit. I didn't quite follow what you were saying.
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you. So I think there's a sort of hierarchy of needs here, right? Because the residents of the area have no choice but to be affected by the road, whereas people who are outside the area have alternatives. They can take alternative routes, they can find alternative routes, and they can, potentially restructure their day to avoid the time impacts of this. But the residents, we actually don't have a choice about the road's impact on us.
Okay, so this is a main ring road you're talking about. You're saying people have other options.
Yep. Christchurch has a pretty robust road network, I would say. They can always take any of the other ring roads. As we know, Blenheim Road is connecting up to this one. That's got a 60 kmph limit. You've got Fendleton Road, which is also pretty fast at 50. In general, I would say there is a pretty broad range of options available.
Barrett Street. I use it to get to Innes, so it's kind of not used in my area. One last question. The noise from the use of or having to navigate humps, we've heard in the past, and when they were mentioned or described as judder bars, that there was an issue with the accelerating away from them. So I just guess further to what I think Mark was asking, you don't believe that those humps, apart from the noise that may be made from a vehicle bumping over them, there won't be an acceleration issue in these vehicles that boy racers drive?
Yeah, that's a good question, but I suppose I would answer with a counter question of what's stopping you from investigating further speed bumps to stop the acceleration from happening?
No, I'm meaning coming away from the hump.
Yep. What's stopping you from placing further speed bumps in front of them if acceleration proves to be a problem?
Or we could put speed bumps down the whole of Dean's Ave and make it a bump all the way down there. Then people wouldn't be able to accelerate at all.
I mean, that's not
being
the
serious
lead,
with
of
my
course.
question. I'm being serious with it. I'm not trying to be clever here, but I'm just wondering, is there an issue with acceleration away from those humps?
Yeah. I mean, that is a good question. But if you refer to our submission, we do actually query this and we ask about other traffic calming measures and speed limit reduction, which the staff response to our submission says will be possible.
Okay, thank you.
No more questions from Waipapa?
Nothing further from here, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Cheers, thank you.
Joseph. We now call on Tony McPherson, Chairperson, and Todd Davis, Committee Member, who will speak on behalf of the Deans Avenue Precinct Society. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yep, go ahead, please. You've got 10 minutes.
Yeah, good afternoon. Tony McPherson, Chair of DEPS, Precinct Society. DEPS submission is supporting the crossing there at Eleanor Mosque, but posing the question why the project is not stage one of a comprehensive plan for the entire length of Deans Avenue.
No, yeah.
Actually.
Why is it not staged like that?
Yeah.
It can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we're back. Yeah, all moving.
Yeah,
Now we're going.
I'm doing the.
Oh, okay.
Is it switched on down the side?
That is what it is.
I think you'll need 40 seconds extra just in case.
Yeah. Gives you extra.
We're back.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah, we do have a wide range of views within our area around this proposal, but there is a very wide spread agreement that that this crossing shouldn't just be dealt with in isolation, that the whole of Deans Avenue will be done. The immediate concern is the implications on the effective traffic flow on Deans Avenue, and Grant touched on all that, especially the entry and exit on and off or across Deans Avenue for those living, especially between Brockworth Place North entrance and Mayfair, as it's their only option to exit the area. We don't see pedestrians, especially residents currently crossing Deans Ave using the mosque crossing, as the majority of them are heading to the hospital or CBD. Yeah, there are approximately 300 occupied residents in Brockworth Place alone, and human nature as a being would suggest most pedestrians will continue to use the crossings at the end of the street exits to Deans Ave, both from both ends of Brockworth, Freiburg, Mayfair. The Oakfield and Palazzo Lane would use a crossing. Cycle access is the issue there is, as I already mentioned, it's 400 metres or plus from anywhere, and you know, how do you get there? And you have to ride down the footpath, which is extremely narrow in places, especially between Brockworth South and Mayfair. So the current crossing points at either end of Brockworth, Freiburg, and Mayfair Street have narrow refuges. Yeah, and yes, a photo illustrating that, and limitations for more than one person using the refuge adds an element of risk, especially to groups or with bikes, prams, and this photo sort of shows it's one person with a pram that fully fills out the refuge. Apart from the entrance into Hagley Park from Freiburg Ave, which was redesigned to allow disabled access, the remaining entries park have the pipe staple entries, an obsolescent design. The only crossing upgrade so far was Bartlett Street, and that was incorporated with the installation of the Riccarton lights. Can we just go back to that, the last one of Cannon Street? Yeah. And again, there has been installations of a more modern refuge with more safety features, not having to, it's a flat platform on the refuge. There's some safety rails, and I think that's far more appropriate for the Deans Avenue crossings. I have been approached by several neighbours in Deans Ave concerned who already experienced a degree of vibration with heavy traffic going through. So wondering what the effect of a speed bump would have with heavy traffic. It's got a real history of issues when they were doing the major sewage pipeline, pre and post earthquakes. The line sunk and they had to redo it again at one stage. And I think they found about 56 logs and roots during. So I'll now pass over to Todd to talk about the road.
Cool. And so what I was going to discuss is how important Deans Ave is to the residents of the 4 streets that live there. Under census 2023, we've got 984 people who reside in that area, who the only way out of that area is via Deans Ave, by motor vehicle, and most people will utilise it for other modes to cross Deans Ave. We also get a lot of hospital workers, worshippers, sports players, and CBD commuters who come to our area every day to park up and make their last commute or final part of commute into town, etc. So implementing improvements is actually really great, and we're all for that. We're an area dominated by transport modal choice. We've got people, pedestrians, scooters, cyclists, cars on every day of the week. Those things are running. And, speaking personally, we live on Brockworth. My whole family commutes by cycle. But the ends of our cycling network is not so great when it comes to crossing over Deans Ave. The refuge in the middle, as you've seen, is very small, can't house a bike. On the other side, we've got staples and poor accessibility for the less abled and for also newer transport modes, such as cargo bikes or scooters. So having an additional refuge along Deans Ave that kind of meets those standards is a good thing. But we also want to ensure we don't create additional risks. And some of those risks may be associated with traffic calming and other parts of, the effect of that traffic calming on other parts of the corridor. So we want to make sure that drivers and any other people have time to contemplate what they're about to do and to take in other people that are utilising the area. What we don't want is the situation we had back in when there was pipe replacement occurring on Deans Ave back in 21-22, where the traffic was slowed, people were dealing with a new layout, and we had a constant moving of queue cars. So that became a very difficult scenario to get things across at the crossings because the cars were just constantly moving. In my experience, I had to push my bike out in front of those cars to actually get the attention of the driver for them to stop and allow the group of us to get through. So that's kind of down as the contractors, they actually put in additional crossing signs just so that people would be made more aware of it. It did work for a little bit, but not all the time. And
just a reminder, you've got 30 seconds.
Yep. And our ability to turn out in and out of the streets at that time was also hampered quite a bit. But let's actually look at Deans Ave. It's in my childhood, so this is a picture from the year 2000. In my childhood, this was access. Deans Ave was access to Blenheim Road, it was access to Morehouse Ave, and it was access to the Addington Sale Yards. Cars and trucks were prominent, and the infrastructure that we've got comes from that time. So median separated with 2 lanes going south, 1 heading north.
Can you please just wrap it up? Because
Yep.
Can I move extra time, please?
Yeah, second.
Just to finish the presentation, yes. Sorry, Tyler.
No, can we move extra time?
So
Just to finish the presentation.
And questions?
No.
Well, we can.
No.
Okay.
So
we can.
Can you please go ahead?
So Deans Ave is an urban connector. It's defined by that under the land setting, land transport rules setting the speeds 2024. I'll get into that. But also NZTA's One Network Framework, or ONF, which sets down, which is the council's designation for that kind of road, and that is an urban connector. And one of my understandings.
How long?
Yeah, I'll go quickly. One of my understandings of ONF is that it is to kind of make it so that you are not putting multiple modes against each other. So ensuring safety by not forcing people together. But could that be also what we're doing? We're putting pedestrians against vehicles. Council provided Deans Ave precinct with some of the counts for pedestrians, and we also can find the traffic counts. So we've got about 500 people crossing between the lights on Deans Ave every day, and we're putting them up against 15,000 cars. So we're looking at improving the safety of Deans Ave, but we're only looking at one particular place in isolation. And so I suppose that's kind of where we're looking at of going, can we look at the whole street rather than just a single point?
All right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Our conclusions are at the end of the presentation.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Done well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Cody Cooper, local resident. Welcome along, Cody.
Good afternoon.
And yeah, you've got 10 minutes, so if you want to allow time for questions, then finish a bit earlier. So that's all your questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Today I saw it's 2012. Actually, wait, no, it's not. Sorry, it's been 2012 days since the CRAP funding was approved by Cabinet. Today, I saw people walking, catching the bus, parents using the tram, the elderly, youth driver using their phone while driving, the disabled, some using a wheelchair and some not. People using a walking frame. These are our community. Further, these are our voters. Today I saw people are moving and Riccarton is growing. Today I see in front of me, Helen, Debbie, Andre, Mark, you moved it. You were there in 2022, 3 years ago now, when you agreed to first make these changes. Today, I see the same opportunity that you saw then. Let's not squander this opportunity, as Council did recently with $78 million of PT Futures funding. Remember, this CRAP funding arrives at no cost to the ratepayer. These changes will see it become easier for people to get to and from their parked cars with a lane widening. It will also make it easier for people to get to and from the hospital, the mosque, bus, and to their homes. Again, it has been 3 years. Many residents elsewhere would be grateful to receive safer crossing points or even footpaths. I know, I was grateful, as were our Awatea residents, when 3 safe crossing points were installed down Awatea Road a number of years ago. So today, let's see, vote for common sense improvements. A vote that sees us use the money that the government has given us wisely to regenerate, to support Riccarton's growth. Space for everyone. Let's make a decision today.
All right, thank you. Any questions?
Yes.
Helen?
Can I ask you, do you live in Rockwood Place or Deans Avenue?
I don't. I live in Wigram and I'm blessed to have a lot of safe crossing infrastructure. We've got most of our footpaths now.
Okay.
That wasn't the case when I first moved there back in 2017. We didn't have footpaths. It's made a huge difference for us in terms of people using the bus, in terms of feeling safe. I know when I travel overseas, including to Australia, for example, the crossings and the streets, they don't feel as safe.
Okay.
And it makes a big difference for people to make that decision. There's a choice to walk and to walk with their kids when there's safe infrastructure on those roads.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Al.
We'll go to Pauline and then we'll go to the Waipapa boardroom.
Oh, thank you. Just which option are you preferring, Cody?
Any option that we can decide today is a good option, rather than seeing a repeat of what we saw with Church Corner. Residents deserve a safe crossing on Deans. Thank you.
So you have no view about whether it's 2-lane, 1-lane speed humps or not? You just want a crossing?
With the budget available from the CREF funding, we don't have enough money for traffic lights to enable people to be able to cross with safer speeds, you know, actually providing enough time for everyone. That's not just people who are able-bodied, that's people who are maybe using a walker, maybe using a stick, get around. Those speed humps will make a real difference for those people.
It sounds to me like you're erring for option one, if anything at all.
Look, I'm
correct?
not drawing on a particular option. Speaking in my own capacity today, look, what I would say is any improvements that we can get in this area are going to be bringing a worthwhile improvement for those residents and visitors.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks, Pauline. Someone else got a question in the boardroom there?
Yep. Thanks for that. Hi, Cody. Yeah, a couple of quick ones. What did you think of the previous submitter who mentioned or suggested that this was a bit piecemeal and actually needed to be looked at more strategically and the entire length of Deans Avenue? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I actually agree, and Hornby residents have actually said the same in terms of wanting to see a Hornby master plan. And I think, you know, sometimes there's a challenge with regards to funding being available, you know, timing and so forth. But I would just say on this, again, residents have waited 2012 days till now. If we're going to defer it again, I think we're letting those residents down. If we're going to defer that decision to council, we have a team here who's more than capable of making a decision. Let's make a decision today.
But let's make a good decision, right? So if the strategic and overview is the way to go, touching on your comments around funding, the CRAF funding, there are several projects in the Riccarton area that are CRAF funded that are not in the annual plan or long-term plan until 25-26. So if there was an option to look at a larger, more strategic plan for the whole area and move the CRAF funding around, is that something that you would be interested in?
I think that introduces additional risk in terms of this project realistically being delivered, just because we already have a design that's here today. If we're talking about something as simple as, you know, in principle, we support, let's put a crossing in, and actually that Cannon Street one's a brilliant example. It's what we see in most new areas, right? There's enough space for a bike, a pram, a couple who are walking together, maybe a group of school kids. That's great. If we're talking about a decision today that, you know, takes out the speed humps, it's maybe not ideal, but I guess we can always add them later. But if we make a decision today to look towards a more strategic view, well, we're actually going to get nothing.
So you see Deans Ave, a ring road, a main road as was referred to in the last one, an urban connector, the same as Cannon, do you?
Look, I would hear roads actually a main road that residents used to get between Halswell and Hornby and Riccarton. There's not an alternative and it's not caused us any issues in that respect. What I would say with that is I don't have a particular view around whether it's 1 or 2 laned, but when we're making it 2 laned, it's actually much harder with no signalisation.
No, I meant the type of road, Cody. Do you see Cannon as the same as Deans as an urban connector?
I'm not sure that it matters to a disabled person whether it's the particular road or another road. What I'm saying is it takes people longer, depending on their circumstance, to cross, and we shouldn't really consider if it's a ring road or not. We should actually be going, okay, this is a crossing. What is realistically going to work within the funding constraints that we have?
Okay, thank you. I don't think we'd put this on a motorway though, right? No.
Of course, that's common sense.
But anyway, thank you.
So thanks, Emily. People just did.
No further questions from there, Simon?
Nothing further from here, thank you.
Thank you very much, Cody.
Thank you.
All right. Now we will call on staff. So that's the end of our deputations. We will call on staff to come forward to the table, please. We've got Anne Tomlinson, project manager, and Samantha Smith, engagement advisor. And Jimma.
Yeah.
All right, great. Now, for board members, please note that staff have tabled a set of updated recommendations. These are not a change to what is being recommended, but is a reordering of the recommendations to ensure that each board is considering the relevant recommendations. Now, what's going to happen is I will ask the Waipuna board if there are any questions, and then Emma will go and ask the Waipapa board members if they have any questions, and then we will have a short adjournment after the questions. In the meantime, give it to staff.
Thanks, Maria. Just introduce myself. So my name's Anne Tomlinson, and I'm the project manager for actually the whole of the Riccarton program. So this is one project from that program.
And I'm Jim Deone. I'm the acting team leader for traffic operations and principal advisor for transport safety at council. In my window.
Where am I pointing to?
Switch to the silver iPad laptop.
Pointed at me. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. So just quickly, we've probably talked about this every time I've come to brief the board on CRAF, but just a quick reminder that this is a CRAF project, so it's not ratepayer money. This has come from central government for transport projects in Christchurch in various areas around the city. And this particular project was identified in this location on Deans Ave by the Waipuna Halswell-Hornby-Riccarton Community Board as their priority project as part of the Riccarton CRAF project, and that was at a meeting in July 2022. So just to, we're just going to quickly go over some of these, delve a wee bit deeper into some of the stats that we've provided in the report. So we talked about the pedestrian survey that took place on Deans Ave. So this is just an image of where the cameras were located. We had 9 cameras in place, and the survey was carried out over 4 days, a Wednesday, a Friday, and a Saturday and a Sunday. And that was done between the hours of 7 a.m. in the morning and 6 p.m. at night. And that shows, what that showed us was that Brockworth Place South had the highest number of pedestrians crossing Deans Ave. And when you combined cameras 5, 6 and 7, which are in the location of the proposed crossing, that came out with 436 pedestrian movements across Deans Ave. So Jim will talk a bit more about the proposal, and this is the proposal that was presented to the community board in a briefing in October 2024, and where the board supported the team going out to consult on this particular scheme.
With some exceptions.
Okay, I'll just go. Yeah, so the proposal that's staff recommended option is a mid-block median island crossing outside Al Noor Mosque. with build outs on the side of the road. So they have the additional benefit of reducing the distance for people to cross and therefore the crossing time. And it also improves the safety of pedestrians because they are more visible to oncoming drivers, and then they can also see approaching traffic better as well. Speed hump on each approach to reduce the likelihood and severity of a crash, and also make people feel safer while using the crossing with lower crossing speeds, lower vehicle speeds, and they create more controlled conditions rather than trying to guess how fast different vehicles are traveling. And one traffic lane is proposed to be removed southbound from Freiburg Place. That also reduces the crossing distance and time to cross. It's easier to judge gaps in the traffic when there is only one lane. And in two lanes, sometimes a car in one lane can block your view of a car in another lane, especially with the increase in the amount of utes and vans that we see on our network today. So how do we decide on the type of crossing to provide? It's based generally on the speed of the road, how many traffic lanes there are, and what traffic volumes are using the road, in addition to the number of people crossing and who it is that's crossing. So in this location, the framework recommended a pedestrian refuge or traffic signals. As we've undertaken on-site observations, people have still been able to cross through gaps in the traffic. So the pedestrian island was put forward over the more expensive signal road option. However, you'll note in the report, the team are future-proofing the crossing by installing ducting now while the road's being resurfaced. So if you wanted to come along and put traffic lights in the future, it's a lot less hassle to do so. So there are no other changes to crossing points as a result of the reduction. So the Brockwood North crossing still retains those two southbound lanes, and the Brockwood South crossing still remains the same, which is quite narrow. And as we know, there are quite a few people there on the road. So potential impacts on the network. This has been through a traffic model. It's a strategic transport model. And we ran a scenario where we shortened the two-lane section. The morning peak being the busiest peak, it's commuter time, it's school time. We found that probably up to about 40 trips may divert onto Riccarton Avenue, and they come into town and then disperse onto the network. It's not really a high number. You could see it within daily variations of traffic. And in the PM, the number was in single digits. So it ultimately doesn't have a huge impact on the network. And then just to touch on a little bit on the ability to cross the road. So that we met with the Dean's Avenue Precinct Society last week, maybe the week before. And this is where we heard the concerns around the gaps. Ultimately, the southbound flow is controlled by the Dean's Riccarton intersection that generally runs on 90 or 120-second cycles. So traffic is being released every 90 seconds and it comes down Dean's Avenue towards the crossing, which is about 460 meters away. We have on-site observations have identified uneven lane usage. So we're not expecting two traffic lanes full of traffic to come all at once. You kind of get a burst of two and then it trickles out into single file. And most of the traffic then is using the lane next to the median island because of people getting in and out of car parks. And that kind of, the traffic lane is quite narrow next to the parking lane. So there's some hesitancy to use the southbound lane next to the parking lane. But ultimately, if you're standing waiting to cross, the traffic will come at you every 90 seconds. It will, in the two-lane scenario, take around 12 seconds for those vehicles to pass. And then you get 78 seconds generally for the next vehicle platoon to come down. If that goes to a single lane, that time would reduce down to about 70 seconds, meaning you'd probably have an additional 8 seconds to wait to cross the road, but you still have those 70 seconds. So in amongst the platoons, you will get the random arrivals from people turning from Riccarton Avenue, Riccarton Road, but that would be less than 1 a minute based on the recent traffic counts undertaken at that intersection, or people making U-turns on Deans because that's how they get out of some of those little side roads. But the volumes we've observed haven't been huge at all. So that's kind of, we've tried to address some of the questions that have come up. I guess one more query comment that's come up this afternoon is around Deans Avenue South and its function within the network, I guess. It is a slight anomaly on the avenues when we're looking at things like Morehouse Ave that carries 40,000 vehicles a day, and Beeley Ave would be the same. Deans Ave South is carrying around 14,500. Clarence Street South carrying about 21,000. So it does have a place in the network, but on the volumes that it's currently carrying, it's not necessarily a street that, you know, if we were designing it from scratch, we would put 2 lanes in, just because there's a lot of spare capacity in that southbound action. Northbound, because of the lights at Riccarton Deans, that is more constrained, so that's why we get a lot more queuing on northbound. But southbound doesn't really have, apart from when the major cycleway crossing goes, it has a lot of free flow traffic. So how Deans Ave South looks in the future is obviously up for discussion, but I think with widening the part of the median that we are to get the safe crossing point in, if you were to do that at Brockworth South, we would need that room still that we've got to widen that crossing as well for people on bikes and with pushchairs as well. So it probably does lend itself to a future study, but it does, what we're doing today wouldn't prevent anything further from happening in the future.
And just to also to add, that's one of the, we didn't sort of touch on, one of the other advantages in having a single lane on the east side is currently the parking, where the vehicles are parked alongside Hagley Ave is very, very narrow. And there has been accidents associated with people getting in and out of those vehicles and vehicles manoeuvring in and out of those car parks. So with the merge coming right back, that actually makes, we are able to make those parking spaces wider, so people are not parking up on the verge, or in a lot safer entering and exiting those parked vehicles. And just to sort of wrap it up, we already have a contractor engaged for CRAF, so we don't need to go out to tender for any of the CRAF projects. So we can actually, if this is approved, we're looking at working in with our maintenance people. So they're looking at resealing the whole of Deans Ave between Morehouse Ave and Riccarton Road, and that's currently programmed for the end of April. And the cost benefits associated, we're working in with them. It's we're coming in with those guys, so all the work's happening at once, so it's less impact for our residents. So that's sort of the timing that we're looking at it if this project's approved.
All right, thank you, Anne and Gemma. Just to repeat what I said earlier, from here, I will ask the Waipuna board members and invite them. I will invite for some questions, and then Emma will invite the Waipapa board members to pose their questions, and then we will have a short adjournment and we will take it from there. And now, with Waipuna members, I have questions from Mark, Helen, Andre, Tyler, and Hank.
Did you guys get in early?
And I might, depending if my question's covered.
Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you. Option 2. I did put through an email earlier today asking whether there's a plan and any resolutions prepared for that. I'm picking from the fact I've had no response that there aren't either a plan or any resolutions available for option 2.
We haven't had that email as yet, and no, there are no plans or resolutions drawn up.
And option 2 would mean a redesign if you're keeping the 2 lanes, because we'd need to redesign the centre median, and it's quite it would be a redesign in that area.
So
there hasn't been a design done for that yet.
So we'd have to delay the decision to do that. Okay. I find that a little bit astounding that we haven't had that preparation done. Has there been consideration of the zebra crossings being painted on those crossing points?
It's not something that we would advocate for in this location, given especially if you didn't have any speed reduction measures. Zebra crossings when designed well with the additional features of raised platforms, can offer a safer crossing point. But without those measures, just painting the lines on the road might not give you anything safer, because ultimately people walking have priority, but sometimes drivers in Christchurch do not stop at those zebra crossings. So we would need to consider it as a whole and look at the speed limit, and it would be quite a bigger exercise. So the NZTA guidance that we use for assessing the most suitable crossing, originally, if you're looking at a raised platform with signals or zebra, but we didn't go for a full platform in this location because it does have extra costs. That actually the median island or the traffic signals was then the alternative recommended options from the framework that we used for deciding crossings.
So there wouldn't be any possibility of, say, removing the speed hump and then putting a zebra crossing and saying, there's your protection, because that I would have thought in point of
We
law.
also can't use zebra crossings on multi-lane roads because of that factor of the near side lane stops, but the far side doesn't, because they don't see you in time. So that's not allowed for in the guidance.
Okay. Question regarding the speed humps. I was noticed on the plan at 75 mils was the height of them. Could you give a context as to how that sort of stacks up? Is it similar to the ones that would be on Waterloo Road outside Hornby High School?
Exactly like Waterloo Road.
So they're quite minor, they're not major.
Correct. So yeah,
Right.
what you'd see in Waterloo Road is effectively what we're trying to replicate.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that. So I did have another one there, but I think I've pretty much got the answer on that. There's no way we could decide for option 2 today because we don't have resolutions. So it's either option 1 or
If
nothing.
you want to keep the 2 lanes, the median island has to be reduced in width to maintain what you've got, which means we may have to look at encroaching slightly into the northbound lane to maintain the width that we need in the middle for people with prams and everything.
So my summation there that there is no chance of passing option 2 today would be correct. Is that right?
Correct. We would need to go and look at redesign.
But it's only the other board.
All done, Mark?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. We've got Helen next, and then Andre, Tyler, and Hank.
Thank you. I put it through questions on the ducting in case we do traffic lights. Is the ducting going from one side of the street to the other, or does it go from one speed bump to another? It's a critical question for me, actually. Yeah.
It's just going from curb to curb. So whether you've got speed humps or no speed humps, the ducting would go under the road. So
Under the
just
road,
curb,
right?
Yes, right from
to the current edges.
back to
That's fine.
resident.
Now, have you got a view on the traffic lights outside Girls High School? Because that's Dean's Avenue with traffic lights, and it seems to work quite smoothly. It only stops if a girl presses it. So have you got any other view on that?
Only that Dean's Avenue North does take, I think it's around 25 to 30,000 vehicles a day.
Yes, it does.
So the gaps that the girls used to have to select were very minimal, whereas actually in Dean's Ave South, the traffic volumes aren't as heavy as Dean's Ave North, and therefore you can select the gaps in traffic.
So in fact, if we put in lights, it would probably be just as effective in terms of traffic flow.
In terms of traffic flow, yes.
Yeah, thank you. And I guess the reason from the October, what I remember from October, it's a long time ago now, is that the reason we're not going with traffic lights is funding. Is that correct, or is there any other reason?
So I guess through consultation feedback, we heard that there wasn't support locally for traffic signals.
Okay.
And in addition, because you do get those gaps in traffic that do exist, the signals may be warranted in X amount of years' time, but aren't necessarily required just now, because you do get the gaps in the traffic because traffic volumes aren't as high as, say, Dean's Avenue.
Yes, I know they had,
and
at least one person was favourable on traffic signals, but okay, no, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Andre next.
Thank you. So just talking about the west side, which is the one that we have a decision on. So even if we don't want to go to one lane, so it's a decision for the other board anyway. So just On the west side, so the new resolutions that have been sent through is able to confirm that hypothetically the board could approve all of those without a speed hump if it's so decided. And then it's up to the other board what they do on their side.
I'll pass to Anne on that because I've
Thank
just
you.
not been involved in
Yeah.
the conversation yet.
So we would recommend that you either do speed humps on both sides.
Yeah.
Or no speed humps.
Yes.
I'm definitely very clear on the recommendations.
Yeah, yeah.
My question is what we can and can't do in making a decision.
Around a speed hump.
That's right. So we're just the west side.
Yes.
So hypothetically, we're able to approve everything on those resolutions here for the west side. But if the board so choose, it could have no speed hump on our side, and it's up to the other board what they do. So recommendations aside, he's able to confirm that that is what this board is able to do if it so chooses.
That is our understanding.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Are you done, Andre?
Yeah.
Thank you, Andre. And then I've got Tyler, Hank, and then Debbie.
Yes. So, Madam Chair, I've got quite a few.
Right.
Lucky enough to have this as my ward. The first question is just for public clarity. The first one is, you can confirm that the U-turn movements along Dan's Avenue won't be affected by the design, correct?
No, you do.
And was there any modelling done on whether the staggered island versus straight refuge could improve or worsen safety or accessibility?
Not modelling as such. It's generally, I think it's just the bar size of the current roadway encourages slightly high speeds and behaviours that if you had a straight across crossing, there was a serious crash down there in 2014 where a person came out of the park and just carried on walking. And I think it's just for consistency around the avenues that we're now starting to introduce stagger so that people get to the middle of the cross. They look both ways. If ultimately the board preferred us to look at a single stage crossing, that's something we could go away and look at. But no, we haven't done any.
Okay, we can hold on to that one just for now. The next one was, can you walk us through the key elements in your reporting when you did the safety audit with the 4 options? Can you walk us through the 20-point block between option 1 and the rest of the options?
Yeah, so ultimately the safer outcome in option 1 generally comes down to mitigating or managing the speed environment. So we know that if a person gets hit at 30 kilometers an hour, they have a 90% chance of survival. At 50 kilometers an hour, it drops to something like 10 to 15. It's quite a dramatic drop. So the speed humps give you that kind of resilience in there that should person walk out, of differing ages, you will get differing outcomes. But if a person gets hit at 50 kilometers an hour, which all of the options other than the ones that speed humps retain, then the points still get quite high. When you introduce the traffic calming, which physically slows people down, and it kind of creates that more controlled situation, that it is just safer outcomes for pedestrians. And that's where the biggest number was in the safe system assessment, and the biggest gains were for people crossing the road.
Okay, that pedestrian assessment was quite comprehensive. I didn't realise you had those numbers. Yes. And there's quite a few pedestrians in that. The next question was, could you elaborate on, as you can tell I've read the report, on the decision not to keep clear markings on Palazzo Lane? And would there be alternatives?
So I guess from an operations perspective, we generally keep clears for, yes, congested roads, but slightly busier side roads. Andrew will probably be able to give us a little bit.
For this area.
Yeah. Do you want to come and tell us a little bit more about keep clears?
Put the chair here, Andrew.
Perch up, Andrew.
Yeah, come have a seat.
I'll have a cuppa for you, mate.
Thank you. Yes, in regard to those, the cross-hatching markings, the cross-hatching is, as I understand it, currently reserved only for railways and emergency access points. And that's things like the ones that just recently been installed in Hornby for the police station and the ambulance. There is keep clear markings which are at our disposal to install, primarily they are for higher volume intersections. The Palazzo Lane is a relatively small private lane. There is also a risk with some of these keep clear markings too, similar to some of the issues that Gemma touched on about vehicles, some stopping, some not. So for instance, in a situation where there's two lanes, it would be a definite no, because the risk is one lane stops while the other one doesn't. So there is some inherent risk with them, but certainly in a low volume situation like that, it typically wouldn't be considered. It is a challenge at times, I imagine, to turn out there, but the safest option, in particular if you can't turn right, is to turn left. To left, turn right elsewhere.
Okay. Now, there's also other things affiliated to this, which is I've had multiple complaints, particularly from the Dean's Ave residents, Palazzo Lane, around antisocial behaviour for illegal parking. For example, people will park over driveways, etc. And also Airbnb stayers tend to enjoy that area. So I'm just trying to hone into now the request that the Dean's Ave Precinct have asked around the wider plan, the master plan for Dean's Ave. What's the possibilities of having that implemented in the future?
So I guess there's currently no project on the books to look at Dean's Ave as a whole. It would be something that the community board would advocate for through annual plan for investigations and then future monies for implementation.
Okay.
But I guess at the minute we can work with our parks enforcement team and ask them to undertake additional enforcement if the parking over driveways and things is becoming a safety issue.
I think it's not just that. If we refer back, if we can, Faye, back to the slide with all the pedestrian numbers on it. It's predominantly around the safer crossing points while also allowing the flow of traffic to come through. But also there was conflicting agreement from Grant and staff, which I'm trying to just hone in here. But if we're able to pull up, Faye.
That one? Is that the one?
No, if you go up there. Sorry, board, I've got.
That's right.
Yeah, go forward one.
That one?
That's the one. Yep. So we've sort of got a preliminary bit of findings here, which could actually inform the potential plan for future pedestrian improvements, such as refuge islands, etc., etc. The question I've got now is, what would that take to get that on? I'm noticing that's probably going to be in the annual plan, and it will be in a separate budget. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, there is the Mine Road Safety Programme, but that is over committed currently. So I think I guess for that comprehensive study in what the full Dean's Ave corridor looks like separately, a separate line item would be the Dean's Ave corridor plan.
Okay.
In your annual plan request.
So we were really lucky to be able to put it in.
Sorry to interrupt. Can we just have a screen shared for the boardroom here?
Oh, Simon can't see it.
Yep, just working on it, Simon.
Okay. I won't go too far into the details. I think I know what I need to do. And I think I know what Claire and that need to do too. The last one is around and Simon, can you see those? Can you see the numbers?
Yes, I've got it now. Thank you.
Cool. The last question I've got is actually around the plan itself. We're going from community to holistic now to the plan. So we have here some differences. So the submissions were mostly in favour from what I read. I think it was about 23 out of 38 who were definitely in favour, 9 were so-so, and about 4 were definitely not. Now, they were all separate. So the problems I'm having right now is the first one is around the speed bumps. And we notice that they're 75 mil, but would there be potential of having them gradually increase and then slowly come down with the intention of them slowing down, but while also not getting drivers to experience?
Yeah, so I guess with some of our new raised platforms, the approach ramp and the connection at the top has been quite steep.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you've driven down Waterloo Road or even some of the kind of speed humps you get going into local streets, like the ones.
Yeah, about 2 hours ago.
Break and Angela, that's the kind of speed hump we're looking at. It's not it's more of a rounded top rather than the big ramps that we've been putting at some of the bigger intersections. It was a
Okay.
lot smoother.
Okay, and with the islands that we're seeing, sorry, they are, what do we name them? I have a bit of other build-outs. Can you talk about the value of having those build-outs?
Yes, okay. So the build outs not only reduce the crossing distance for people, it puts you at a point where you can see traffic better because you're not hiding behind placards, but also then traffic can see you a lot more. If the build outs weren't supported, we would need to take a plan back out for consultation because ultimately we have to provide what we call crossing sight distance. So a pedestrian waiting on the footpath can see what's coming. And I think we looked at the one lane scheme. You could be looking up to about 75 meters of parking removal to maintain that crossing sight distance. And with the 2 lanes, because the potential for speeds being higher, that you could be looking up to a lot more parking removal. So
So we want these.
so the build outs do have benefit in retaining the on-street parking outside Hagley Park.
Okay, so the car parking part in terms of sight lines, is that by New Zealand practice standards?
Correct. Yes.
Great. Now that's all my questions for today, Madam Chair. Thank you so much. I'm sure there will be more.
Thank you, Tyler. So after Tyler, we've got Hank, Debbie, Helen, and Andre. Hank, go ahead, please.
Just a comment and then a question. Your speed humps down Waterloo Road. I find that if you take them at 50k, they're hardly noticeable. If you take them at 30k, they're very noticeable. So I wonder how good the traffic calming of them actually is. I know some people stop, almost stop, and very gingerly go over the top, but that's a minority.
Question, please.
And the question is, just for clarification, is on the southbound lane, which you will want to reduce down to 1 lane, it's already reduced down to 1 lane further back. Is that further forward?
So
Is that correct?
there's a 1 lane section pretty much from Blenheim Road back to north of the crossing point, the signalised crossing point,
so-
the old Blenheim Road deviation.
Yep.
So we would extend the 1 lane by 300
Yeah,
meters.
yeah, that's my, I
So
get
you still get the
250. Well, it wasn't bad.
departure lanes from the intersection.
Yep.
And then the merge point is south of Brockworth North, so it's around Freiburg Avenue,
Okay, so then do you increase parking places or just make it easier to park on what you got?
making it easier to.
So you're not going to angle the parking or anything?
There's not enough room to provide angle parking on.
Okay. Okay, yep, thank you.
Thank you, Hank. Debbie.
Thank you. You mentioned before when Councillor Peters was talking about the lanes and zebra crossing that they weren't ideal for 2-lane roads because of the view. So option 1 is suggesting 1 lane. So is there an opportunity to look at a zebra crossing there now that it's coming down to 1 lane?
So I guess there is. There's always additional costs with zebra crossings because you need to make sure that you have lighting that meets the standard to make sure that it's lit at nighttime. And that's something I guess that we could monitor and see if it needs to be upgraded to a zebra crossing in future. At the minute, vehicles maintain priority, I guess. But if the numbers do materialise at that crossing point, then yes, it's something that could be considered in the future.
Thank you. Second question is curb build outs. I'm just wondering if we're going to incur, or if you can see that it could replicate a problem like it did outside Woolworths in Church Corner, where we are now having to remove those curb build outs because they became problematic and became very accident prone. So do you think that this could become problematic too? That's our fear. Well, some of us are concerned that that could be a similar situation, especially when the flow is constant. People having to slam on their brakes because they realise, hang on, it's it's now not,
Yeah.
yes,
So
and
I guess the islands outside Countdown will put in a traffic lane to encourage people to merge to then force them to indicate or do something better than what they were doing. The build out that's proposed is in the parking lane. So and given the parking demands are quite high, it's just within that strip of parking. So it won't have the same effect.
Thank you. And just the other thing too, when we were talking about the traffic flow and the effects of, I mean, it is a high user road, as you're aware. Once again, referring to Church Corner and build up and dog legging of traffic in and around that area. I'm just wondering, has any modelling been done pursuant to the gridlock backup? Because you see, I understand you've done the modelling in and around that particular pedestrian area, but the backup can go right around the corner onto what road is it? Around
Brockworth.
Harper.
No, right round, is it Morehouse?
Morehouse.
So I'm envisaging, gridlock at those lights. So has any modelling been done pursuant to possible probable, possible backup dog legging around?
So the queuing that we've observed during the peak time on Deans Avenue, which is, and as Mr. Reid highlighted, isn't actually between 5 and 6 p.m. It's generally from 2 to 5 p.m. And Thursdays and Fridays are weirdly higher. The traffic going southbound is generally constrained only when the network, the lights at Blenheim are at capacity, which is at peak times, and then the major cycleway crossing point. But we haven't observed queuing during those peak times that would extend back the southbound traffic at the location of the crossing point. So for northbound, it is probably more of an issue because that intersection at Deans-Riccarton is at capacity as well. And so trying to get traffic out of Deans Avenue going north is quite hard, but because it's just a discharge flow from those lights, there's less of an issue.
And I'm concerned with the reduction of the 2 lanes to 1 and how that will impact the road further around. So the answer to my question is no.
So no, we haven't undertaken that specific modelling, but just from the on-site observations we've undertaken through.
So I go back to Mr. Reid's deputation about trialling. And I remember requesting that for Church Corner as well, which wasn't agreed on. But trialling, in my opinion, can avoid so many.
Just questions, Debbie.
Has trialling been looked at for this option?
No, there is a cost to trials. I guess that has to come out of the project budget. I'm not, and would have to talk to about what's left in the project budget for it, because you would ultimately need to run a trial for at least 2 weeks, if not maybe more, to see what the actual effects were. The traffic management plan with the cones, like it does have a cost to council, and then there's the monitoring of it and the evaluation of the trial, and then we would have to bring a report back to see. So
understand. So my last question is you agree that by trialling is cheaper than putting it in and undoing it?
No, it's more expensive to try it. I guess if you're looking at the whole project cost, the trial cost is on top of the build cost. So if the trial shows that everything's fine, you still have the same build cost.
Yes, but what I'm saying is that if it turns out that it's becoming very problematic,
then
we have to undo it like we are at Church Corner with those concrete build outs. Anyway, thank you. Thanks.
Right.
That's lovely.
Thank you, Debbie. And so we've got Helen and then Andre, and that's it for the Waipuna board.
Okay, thank you. I'm concerned about the build outs in particular. Is the build out on the southern side, the resident side, less built out than the northern side? It looks as though it is.
Yes.
How much smaller is it?
So the parking lane on the west side of the road is 2 meters wide. That's a standard parking lane, and so that build out is the same width.
Yes.
But where we've created the extra space on the park side, by removing the traffic lane, we've been able to widen the parking.
You widened
lane.
it to about 3 metres, is it?
I think it's probably 2.5.
Okay, thank you. So it looks bigger and is bigger. Okay.
So therefore, the build out has to come to that same outside line,
Okay.
otherwise pedestrians are still standing behind parked cars.
Okay.
That's a lot. Yeah.
And you're probably aware, but just want to check, you understand the proposed district plan is making intensification in the Deans Avenue area up to 4 stories. And the independent hearings panel was very firm that the boundary for the central city was Deans Avenue, Harper Avenue, Beale Avenue. So you're clear about that?
Yes.
It's part of a ring road, kind of.
It is and it isn't, I guess. Yes, I think before the Blenheim deviation was put in, the 4 avenues were pretty clear.
Yes.
But I think with the change in the alignment of Blenheim Road to Morehouse Ave, people don't need to use Deans Ave as much, and that's probably why, you know, Clarence Straven corridor is quite congested at peak times, because people are coming along Morehouse Blenheim and then using that rather than
That's
because you can get stuck on Deans North.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think.
But it is a kind of critical road, is what I'm saying.
It has a function for moving some traffic, but it also has that function of being for people to be able to access the park, for people to access their homes. And so I guess it's not as critical as Deans Ave North, Harper Ave, Beale Ave, and the big avenues.
Okay.
It provides a supporting role, and it's
Yes.
probably a better,
Okay.
another way of thinking about it.
Okay, no, that's fine, thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Andre no longer has any questions, so I will pass on to Emma for questions from the Waipapa board.
Right, we'll start with Pauline.
Oh, thank you. That's a bit of a surprise. Look, I would really like to move option 1 for Waipapa.
We're
The
going
recommendations
to.
that go to Waipapa, I think that we could just move that.
We're still on questions at the moment, Pauline.
Well,
And when it does come to the resolutions, the Waipuna board are going to do theirs first. So do you
I think you can move. I think you can move at any time, but I'll take your guidance on that. But you've got my view on it. Thank you.
Okay, I've been given advice that yes, you can move it at any time. Can we?
I probably need a seconder for that.
Staff are still at the table and we may still have some questions.
That's fine. We don't have to put it to the vote, just been moved.
Yeah, and I'll second it, please. Anita has seconded, right? So the Waipapa resolutions have been moved by Pauline and seconded by Senator.
Thank you.
That's the staff recommendation. We'll now go back to questions. So did anyone else around the Waipapa table have any questions for staff?
Yep, Ellie.
Yeah, thank you. I was actually going to foreshadow a motion, but Pauline has moved something in the question time there. So I'm really concerned that we haven't got option 2 available to us. I just say that now to explain
Do you
why.
have a question, Ellie?
No, I think it's really important that because it's a process issue, it's a process matter. So I have got a motion that I'm going to foreshadow that I'll raise in a moment. What I would like to ask is, you mentioned, Gemma, the car numbers when we talked about the numbers on Deans Avenue. You put up Morehouse and Beale as representative of roads with much bigger or larger volumes. Could we perhaps compare apples with apples and take a look at, say, Harper, possibly Riccarton? What are the numbers there?
Yeah, so Harper Ave carries around 26,000 vehicles a day. Riccarton Avenue carries around 17,000 vehicles a day.
Right. So, and the north of Deans, you said, was up there as well. So there are fewer on the south of Deans.
Right. So Deans Avenue North carries around 32,000 vehicles a day. And Deans Avenue South at the location of the crossing is 14,500 vehicles a day.
All right. And look, it might be in all the information that we got. How many car on pedestrian incidents have there been in this area?
So there was one serious crash involving a person leaving the park being hit by a vehicle. That's the only one that's been recorded by police in the last 10 years on this section of Deans Avenue.
So when you say leaving the park, you mean crossing the road here?
Correct.
Okay. Would it be possible to just basically put a split in the current median? It seems to me from what we've heard from people who have presented that what's there now seems to be working pretty well. If you had a split in the median that allowed for prams and so forth, would that be possible?
So it would be possible to put the cut in the median. The only downside to that is that you would have the same problems as I guess what's been highlighted in other presentations is that it's just not wide enough for a parent pushing a pram, or if you've got a bike, especially a cargo bike, and because you're carrying the kids around in it, they are
lengthwise, not widthwise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The other issue too is what, if anything, have you got planned from a broader consideration of Deans Avenue? Is there anything in the work program that's going to be looking at the length of Deans Avenue?
So that question was raised by Waipuna as well. And I think it would need to be something that would be a corridor study that would need to be funded in the annual plan for, I guess, investigations and then construction funding.
Okay. Yeah, the answer's no. Just a couple of other things, Gemma and Anne. What confused me initially with this, and obviously we've only just come to this in the last few days, but the crossing at what we know as Nancy's Corner, and that ages those of us who know it as Nancy's Corner, down on the corner of Riccarton and Deans, and the other corner, that's 450 metres from the mosque. Can you just explain a bit more about the pedestrian? You know, why are people coming from the park? Why are they crossing there? Why is 450 metres down where there is pedestrian crossing available not used? Can you just explain that a little more?
Yes, I guess looking at we put the cameras out and we undertook those surveys. I guess 450 metres north and even 400 metres south to the pedestrian crossing is quite a distance. I guess as a pedestrian, you're having to use the most exercise and energy to get to where you're going. And so really, if you're parking, and I did observe it, some of the nurses were parking down on Deans Ave on the west side and walking through the park to get to the hospital. But it is just a bit out of your way. It's just, I guess, as pedestrians and people who are inherently lazy and will just cross at the easiest, most convenient crossing point. So there is those cut throughs along Deans Ave to kind of facilitate that. They're just not at a standard that we would probably put in today.
Okay, so apart from people walking to the hospital for work, why are people crossing there? Do you know?
So the only other people that we saw were groups of school children with their cricket gear, the people parking and walking, and I understand that there's activity from the mosque as well, from people who've been to the mosque and want to access the park. I would guess on events days, sports days on Saturdays, it does get quite busy around there with people parking and accessing the park. So I guess it's just the park's the biggest demand, as well as mosque activity and residents just wanting to get to where they're going. Because they are, that's the only access.
Just last of all, process-wise, how is it that option 2's come to us as an option when it can't actually be voted on?
So in the report, they're just options that have been considered, and the staff recommended option is option option 1. Yeah. So I guess if you wanted us to look at option 2 in more detail, I mean, they were just kind of considered at high level, following consultation to make sure that we tested the options before we brought them to the board. We just don't have any final scheme designs that have been through safety audit and everything else to get option 2 in front of you. So it would just require some additional work.
So, sorry, I'm not understanding. So you can present options to the board that can't actually be voted on. I'm not trying to be smart. Is that right? You can present options that aren't able to be considered.
Yeah, so in most staff reports, we put options that we've considered and they generally have a cost associated with them. So elected members can see all of the different things that we've considered. And then really we just put the plan forward that is the staff recommended option. So if you would like us to go away and investigate any of the other options, we can do that, and then we would just need to bring another report back.
Well, that's what my foreshadowed motion is, but we've already had the substantive moved and seconded, so I guess that's not really an option. Thank you.
You can foreshadow.
Well, you can still foreshadow something, Ellie, if you've got a seconder.
Yep, okay. Mark's got it there if you want to pop it up.
There's something here, but
Oh, you can't share, but you can see.
I've sent it through to staff.
Oh, okay. So basically,
It has
it's
to be seconded by someone from the Waipapa board.
That's right.
Oh, okay.
sorry.
It would have to be seconded by somebody from the Waipapa board.
Why?
Okay, I didn't know that. That's fine.
The resolution that Ali is foreshadowing is to refer the decision to council for the full option to be considered, including option 2, the only 2-lane option, and designed and consulted on if necessary. So do you have a seconder around that board table, Ali?
Not around this board table. Where does it say it's got to be around this board table?
You do that.
Because you can only make a decision on the part of the project that is in our board area.
Side. We can't.
That's the only bit we have jurisdiction for.
All right. Well, I know how my board works and I know I won't get a seconder, so that's fine. We'll flag it. Thanks.
Right, so that is not going ahead, that foreshadowed.
Can I have a question about process here, please? That foreshadow is to do with option 2, which both our boards have a vote on. Yes?
That's on our side.
On your side.
Yeah.
We have it for our side, you have it for your side.
Yes, so we want to present the same foreshadow that Ali did, and
We're going to do it for our side of the road.
well, we can do it. Did you want to?
Hold on, we're dealing with a motion on the table.
Yeah.
And that's a motion from the Waipapa board, and she's dealing with that.
Yeah, I'll second that, Mark.
Hasn't been.
No, I've already
Close it.
We've already got a motion on the table, so we have to deal with that one first as well, please.
I thought that we could have foreshadow. You said before that Ali could foreshadow it.
That was foreshadowed.
Have a seconder.
If this current motion was lost, then she'd foreshadowed that for that board, for that part of it. That makes sense?
Victoria is Victoria.
We're voting in 2 different boards.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, one side is their
So
side.
Ali can only put forward something to foreshadow a motion from our board.
I understand that, but we're all looking at option 2. We're saying that the plans haven't come to us. We want further investigation on that. That's why
Then you create your own motion and then someone seconds it.
But that can't be done until we've dealt with the motion that is currently on the table, which is the one that was moved and Sunita seconded, which is for the Waipapa side of the road.
and then we do our side of
We'll
that.
come to your side.
Okay.
Yeah. Hold on, we're still with Waipapa questions. I had a quick question. You'd mentioned that the work could be done in conjunction with the resealing, which was end of April. If for some reason this got delayed, how much extra would we be looking at? How much are we saving by having it done at the same time as the resealing?
I don't have a dollar figure, but there'll be savings in traffic management costs. They'll be shared with the maintenance team, and also in the line marking, and line marking removal. So, if, for example, on the east side, we do the lane merge is pulled back. If we don't do it with our maintenance team, they will go in and paint what's there now, then we will go in and there'll be a cost to removing it again. So, there is quite a bit of saving in line marking removal, and then all the new line marking will go in on the new seal. Also, that's cost and just impact on the residents in doing one lot of construction works and then coming in to do another lot of construction works on new seal. So that's sort of.
I think that was all the questions from our board.
All right, we are still with Chris.
Check the room for that. I just wanted to say I had a couple of great ones myself, but the staff presentation answered one and another elected member has resolved the other. So
they were great questions, were they?
Yeah.
Gonna get it soon, Simon.
Smooching.
Right, I'll hand back to Marie then. Right.
So can I please ask a process question here? Is there any reason why we can't put the Waipapa resolution now? And if that gets whatever, we could, Waipapa could depart the meeting and leave the meeting for the Waipuna, the rest of it.
Oh, thanks, Pauline. Cheers. Yeah.
No, is there any reason why we can't do that now?
Oh, we might be.
Why not?
Well,
All right, I'm just looking to staff. And what's in that?
Going to
But that's what we can ask, whether even if they do that, it's up to us.
It doesn't
We do
matter.
It doesn't matter who goes first.
We still make our own view.
Yeah, but hold on, but Megan's just coming with some advice.
Yeah, I'm just gonna to that.
Like. Get a way to resolve. The easiest line if the one side.
It goes to council if we don't agree. It's probably the option.
I mean, it could be a waste of money to if we don't get in on it early.
But if we say we agree on something else, and they have a different view, it goes to council.
Well, there's nothing stopping us from putting in the build outs.
I don't like the build out. That's the one thing that holds me out.
Because you've got to do the build outs in order to set the car parks.
Yeah, that's the thing I mentioned. I'm not too concerned about the speed humps.
Will honestly be done in 5 minutes if we go.
We're not going to have an adjournment, are we?
We're going to keep you here a bit longer.
Tyler, Tyler, are you moving your one too? Sort of?
Oh, no, I'm indifferent. I put in a additional.
Quite a long one.
I put in an additional.
Probably not hand it back to council.
Would you be supportive of us sending it back to council to get option 2 developed?
I think you get done before construction.
I understand.
Yeah,
I understand that.
It won't take long.
We haven't actually got options. We've only got.
Well, no, we do. We can put in the build outs and wait on the speed.
The west side.
That's outside.
I'm fine with the speed humps.
Yeah, but we go to council.
That's central.
No, I'm talking outside. Outside.
I'm not comfortable with build out.
To decide whether
A build out makes no difference.
Option 2 doesn't include us.
Makes no difference.
We're still one lane.
Yeah, but if it goes to
No
council.
difference whatsoever.
I'm not keen on it.
It does, but
So you're not keen on
Option 2 does say to keep it two
Going over
lanes.
crossing.
their side, not ours.
Oh, there is.
That would have
Only
to go
this side.
So they're voting on that. And what I would like to.
Still have a couple of questions to go, so we're going to finish with questions, then we'll ask staff to leave. Then we'll probably jump to a quick adjournment just to figure out plan of action from here. So Marie, questions.
So we've got Tyler and then Mark.
Okay, first of all, just process questions around just gaining clarity for the board. So we're talking about, so if Central move theirs through their delegation on the other side, and arguably that's actually the kid teacher side, they move option 1, therefore we're left with our side, which essentially is a lot less contentious. So if they pass the motion and move it and it passes, if the motion passes, that means that it's set in stone. Is that correct? And if there was a retrospective motion from this board to try and take it to council,
That's right.
that wouldn't work by processes.
It should.
Because by process, correct? Because they've resolved a motion.
Their advice is
Well, we need to hand it back to council.
Okay, so we actually can't hand it back to council even if we wanted because the motion's been put.
Unless Pauline withdraws her motion.
I don't know.
But Tyler,
If we did,
different view.
that staff did come up with some different scenarios with what might happen.
Yeah.
Well, we've got essentially just a build out and the middle island, right? And the speed bump. That's what we've got. What Central's got is the 2 lane down to 1.
Whereas the whole.
Yeah, but I don't want to be making a decision a half.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, even if we wanted to, it's extremely difficult to if Pauline's already moved the motion.
She can withdraw it from the table.
So,
Pauline, are you wanting to withdraw it from the table?
No. Yes. No. But can I clarify? If we vote for option 2, say, then it goes to, and it gets through, it goes to council anyway.
No.
No. Why not?
understood that
It can
earlier.
only go to council if boards agree to send it to council.
Well,
We- we agree to send our side to council.
Yes.
That's it. We're sending it. We're sending it in half an island to council. I don't think that would work.
So how's that going to work? I mean, theoretically, if we all agree on our board to send it to council, what's that going to do with Waipapa?
Right. Can we just go to other questions and then we'll have an adjournment?
Process question. That was
Yes,
what I-
we will, we'll set aside the process questions for now. Any other questions to staff, please?
Mine was a
No,
process
Tyler.
question as well.
Tyler, you were asking the questions.
Oh my gosh. No, I'm all good. I'm a bit
Right,
flabbergasted.
okay, we go to.
You're just wasting your time.
I know.
We're not, though.
Yes,
We're
we are.
going to agree with this.
Excuse me, we've got a question from Mark to start.
Oh, it was a boy asked a question. Sorry, after that, after Mark.
You want to do your more question?
That was actually around noise and vibration. So I've actually had quite a lot of complaints around vibrations from buses, heavy vehicles, and boy races.
Yep.
And a lot of them allude to speed bumps and divots in the ground. Is there any modelling to alleviate noise issues and complaints? If the speed bumps pass today, are there any ways to be able to alleviate those issues for residents to make them feel at ease if there is issues that arise?
I guess
Can we call them platforms? Because they're not humps. They're platforms. They're very different.
They're not platforms. These are
These are humps.
These are humps.
Please refer to the
ultimately with
report. Pauline. Please refer.
Sorry, Jim.
that's okay. With maintenance coming through, I guess there's the opportunity to make sure that the road subbase is up to standard and that the surface is then put on over the top, which is something that we'll take back and ask maintenance to look at. Ultimately, boy races like long straight sections of road for them to put their foot down and go and without any kind of bumps in the road. So I think it does have that potential benefit of discouraging some antisocial behaviour by having the humps there. But we will double check the vibration stuff, which does come down generally to the subbase.
Okay,
So
great.
we'll take that back to maintenance.
So by way of process, I've got some amendments put up. I'd love if you're able to look at them.
Okay.
Time. Thanks.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.
Right. Mark, question to staff, please.
Yes, my question was a process, and I think we've pretty well had the answer that there is no way for us to send this entire decision to council so we can get this right once for all. Because they've already moved and seconded it by Waipapa, option 1. So unless that gets voted down by them or they withdraw it from the table, there's no way for us to put a resolution to send it to council, is there?
We can do our side.
We can send
Council.
our side to council.
Yeah, but there's no point if they made.
Well, I mean, there is looked at.
There is.
I mean,
There is a point.
yeah, there is a point.
No, well, there's no way to do it.
It's like the questions are finished and you've all got just things about process. We will go for a short adjournment.
Okay.
2 minutes.
Start the recording.
Good.
Right. So we are back online and recording, and I will pass on to Emma.
Right. Thank you to everyone in the public for waiting around and vacating while we just discussed their process there. So we have the motion on the table, which was moved by Pauline and seconded by Sunita, which is moving recommendations 7 to 12 of the revised staff recommendations. So we will move to debate. Pauline, did you want to speak to it?
It's just a staff read. It's just a staff read.
Sorry. Yes, I can do that. I just think the reason to get to support option 1 is look, it's from being the best option. I like the way that it creates better access to the park and particularly brings in safety improvements for the parking and gets the cars off the berm, which is really important. There have been accidents there. It seems to me that the sticking point is the speed humps, but I know a lot of people, I know they have been politicised. Some people have an aversion to them, but I know a lot of people who come to me and they respect why those speed humps are there. Yes, they're slightly inconvenient. They might cost you a few more seconds of your time, but they save lives and they reduce injuries. And for me, that means a lot. So for the sake of a few seconds and slowing down, I don't see a big issue with these humps, and I think we'll get used to them. I like the way that staff are future-proofing this project by installing the ducting so that in the future, traffic lights or signals could be put in there, and that should make you happy, Helen. And also the fact that the important thing here, I think, is that these works are going to be aligned with the resealing of Dean's Ave. And I think if you delay too long, you'll miss that window. If you miss that window, you'll cause upheaval for the residents by it being that work's being done there twice. You'll also accelerate the costs and increase the costs there, and then nobody wants that. I think sending it, trying to send it to council is not a smart idea. It'll also cause delays, and there'll be also more budget spent on a new design. So I think we just need to get on with this and do option one. And I really do hope that everybody does support that today. Thank you.
Thanks, Pauline. Does anyone else want to speak to it?
Yes, thank you. Oh, sorry, I had Jake first.
All right, yeah.
Mine's really short. It's just to follow on from what Pauline said. And one of the things I noted in the start presentation, and I know this because when I drive down there, I can feel uncomfortably close to the parked cars. So another benefit of this option is going to be able to space that out a little bit as well. And additional to that, yeah, look, I'm really happy to support option one. I think I would implore the other board to, even if that's option one without the hump, if that's a problem for people over there, I think much better to make that compromise than send this back to council, because, you know, we at some point we do have to have, we do as community boards actually have to exercise our own delegations. So thank you.
Thanks,
Great, thank you. Yep, thanks very much. This is a road. It's pretty obvious. In fact, as the Deans Avenue Precinct Society said, this is an urban connector. It is designed to move people and goods via vehicle, and they did not approve of or agree with putting pedestrians and cycles and vehicles together. We're doing it constantly, and it is dangerous. You know, more than this just being a road, it is a main ring road. It is a busy access way for vehicles. Every day, 7,000 to 8,000 of them each way. The traffic is already congested here from Morehouse down to Riccarton to Riccarton Road, most days late in the afternoon. We need to actually be talking about all modes of transport. We also need to be cognizant of spending money, whether it is council money or government money, on things that need it. Spending at least $500,000 and possibly more, because it is noted in the report that it could cost more, on something that is not only needed, but will affect the efficiency and operation of a main road. It was totally illogical, and it's actually a dereliction of good decision making. Speed humps save lives and reduce injuries. I want to see the stats on that. And this isn't about slowing down. This isn't about saving 3 or 4 seconds. This is about congestion and frustration and poor decision making as a result. We are encouraged in our roading strategy, in the City Council roading strategy, to put the right road in the right place. Well, this is another example of a right road in the right place being stuffed around. It will not be the right road after this. It will no longer do what it is supposed to do, which is transport vehicles effectively and efficiently, if we do what is being recommended by our staff, which is what's been moved this evening. I'd like to ask my colleagues to think independently, start using some common sense, and because of the independence and common sense, I cannot support this proposal today. Thank you.
Thanks, Ellie. Does anyone else want to speak?
Couple more, yeah, probably most of us, I think. Emma.
Hey, bring it on.
I thought you wanted to go home.
Hi, I support this and
Thought your board wanted to go.
with the speed humps. I just want to remind Ellie that they're not roads, they're transport corridors. And also, I just want to remind Ellie that congestion can only be reduced by changing traffic options. Nothing else works. Thank you.
There was Emma today.
Kia ora. Madam Chair, I was very interested in...
Everyone else, this is John Miller. Thank you.
I was interested in the discussion and the numbers on gaps analysis and pulse theory, both from Mr. Reid and from staff. But I think, and I was somewhat on a stalemate on that, but I think that the single lane versus double lane, provides pedestrians with a better ability to judge gaps. And I feel that that's a fairly important overriding fact in arriving at option one. I support the staff option. I don't think that going ahead of this will usurp or preclude doing a wider strategic look at Deans Avenue in due course. And this is craft money. There are time constraints that we need to move forward with. This was a Waipuna initiated project. I'd hate for us to be the ones to hold it up, and therefore I support it. It is appropriate that we have our say. It's a shared road. It goes between the two wards, and there's a park there, which is the backyard or the front lawn of Central, whichever way you look at it, used by a lot of people around Christchurch. And a spin-off of option one is it alleviates that tight and dangerous parking issue, which has been mentioned by other members too, to the sports ground, including just today on a weekday. There's cricket being played there. There are cars parked. There are people moving around. So it's a long way between drinks. It's a half a kilometre between the nearest crossings. And therefore, this is an appropriate course of action to take. A crossing is a good thing. And if we're going to do it, we should do it properly. Thank you.
So did you want to speak? Anita?
Sure, everyone. As a seconder, I do support the motion, and I really want to point out and echo the sentiments of board members who have supported that it's just not risk and it's not just safety. We need to think about decision who is at the higher risk. So people sitting in the car versus people who are walking, cycling, and keeping in mind that I know people have got quite reluctant view about speed humps or speed platforms, but there are research which do prove that speed hump does slow traffic, and if the traffic is slower, the chances of accidents are less. There is no perfect solution to it, but we do all agree that this road needs attention and fixing because it is giving higher risk to not just community around that road, but to the wider Christchurch because sports ground is highly used during all seasons. Thank you.
Thanks, Anita. And then just me, if I can go ahead. So a couple of reflections on the submissions and deputations. Firstly, just thinking about Mr. Cooper's deputation tonight, the 2,000 days since the CRAF funding was approved by Cabinet, and just reflecting on the thought I've had a few times, particularly with a project in our board, Papanui ward, safety delayed is safety denied. And if a longer decision-making process is entered into for this, that's a longer time when there isn't a safe option on the road for pedestrians, cyclists and other vulnerable road users. The AA's submission encouraged the council to consider or ask the question, has the council learned anything from Lincoln Road? Well, the great news, and this is great news for Ali who would like data on speed bumps as well. It's a platform, not a bump, but it's a vertical piece of traffic control. And the data shows that in 2 years since that's been put in, there have been 0 reported accidents. So that's the difference we can see when we've got the appropriate controls in. Just wrapping up, I think my view is streets should be for people. And as Emma, you've said, it's a transport corridor. We need to look at all the users of it. The Waipuna board, I get the sense they want some weighting put on the local residents. And I just would note, the Blenheim Road has moved. The usage of this road, we saw that in, was it the Deans Precinct Society's deputation as well. Blenheim Road doesn't connect where it used to. The usage of this stretch of road has changed. There's now, it's now more residential. We'll see intensification, etc. So, park users on one side, residents on the other, people accessing the mosque and more. I'm keen to put a lot of weight on that. So, thank you, Pauline, for moving the option. Kia ora.
Thanks, Simon. Right, so we will put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against?
Yep.
It's just Ali. You'd like that noted, Ali?
Yes, please.
Yep. Okay, that
You're
is.
calling a division?
No, it was just Ali that voted against it. So that is carried. So that is the Waipapa part of the meeting done. So we will leave you to it.
Thank you. Thank you, Emma, and thank you, Waipapa Board.
Thank you.
Thank
you, Renee. Thank you, Waipuna.
Ellie.
Arohanui.
See you guys.
No, they will not.
Thanks for doing things.
Oh, yeah.
I still can't get options on this agenda. Here it says options.
Yeah.
I knew that would happen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emma.
See you, man.
Thanks, Emma and Emma.
Marie, can you tell us what page we're looking at, please?
And did people take Paris on
The best way to look at is the resolutions that got emailed through this afternoon. For each.
I haven't checked my emails yet.
Yeah, so.
Why are they emailed to us so late?
Because they need to be read.
Right, so moving on, now we will call for motions from the Waipuna Halswell-Hornby-Riccarton Community Board members. And Tyler?
Yep, I'd like to push for an option that provides all of the necessary requirements within the plan, minus the speed bump.
Second that.
Right.
I'd also got additional amendments to provide in regards to the Dean's Ave submissions.
Can we please ensure that it says northbound, not southbound, because our side of the road is
northbound.
They won't be.
What have we got?
The other side.
No, I know, but
what have we got already?
Oh, yeah.
So I think there were some updated recommendations sent through today. And
by who?
That's why they're on the hub. And Tyler, I think your additions that you've requested are shown highlighted. So it's approved in principle of the project as detailed, excluding speed humps.
Yep.
And approves all curb alignments, paths, items and surface streets with traffic calming measures, excluding speed humps and road marking.
Yep.
And then there's some additional resolutions that you would like to move.
Yes, and I was wondering if I could also add a noting amendment.
You want to change Hagley Avenue to Riccarton Avenue?
Traffic calming is sort of oxymoronic in a way when we're saying excluding speed humps. But I'd like to add a noting amendment that we have the opportunity to
approve speed humps later.
Yeah, to proactively include speed humps
if required.
If required.
Okay.
So not the review in 12 months?
No.
It could be included in the review that I'm asking for in terms of the.
Don't need
Just leave it in there, don't need it.
I just review we need that. Because it might
just as long as Gemma knows that this is what I'm after in terms of the review. Sorry.
Which one?
Just for public knowledge, what I'm asking for is request that staff produce a comprehensive traffic master plan for the section of Dean's Avenue between
it's not Hagley Ave.
Hagley Ave. We need to Hagley
It's
Ave.
Riccarton Ave.
It's Riccarton Ave.
Riccarton Ave, between Riccarton Ave.
Yep, between Riccarton.
Could say between the intersection of either other, including Freiburg, Palazzo, Brockworth, and includes the following. And it's pretty much a comprehensive review on everything that Dean's Ave precinct have asked for, including appropriate crossing points across the network. And after that is undertaken, there'll be some recommendations from staff about how we can implement it, which will include the speed bump if required.
So you've taken out the speed bumps?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Still.
So
does it? Sorry.
Option one without the speed humps.
Excluding speed.
And
then the additional.
It's an appropriate middle ground. Finding consensus in the board, get it done, hand it over, save money. Bob's your uncle.
So we move this one first.
So Tyler's moving that, but make it bigger.
And
Sorry.
Debbie seconded.
Debbie seconded?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Question, does traffic staff need to take a look at it before?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Take an adjournment, we'll make sure we got it right.
Sorry to add more.
And I am going to be asking for a division, even though we're probably unanimous.
They want
I
to,
just look at it from Riccarton saying last week that it doesn't matter if it's unanimous. It shows who's at the board meeting.
I don't know if it's all evidential board.
That's a reporting issue.
Yeah.
Making it providing clear like they're doing in Wellington. So we're working to fix that.
So we can talk. Well, it just.
Corridor study.
That people don't need to look at. If I had left early, for instance, it would look like I've already voted
Good.
because it's unanimous.
Change traffic master plan to corridor study.
Yeah, I'm about to head off.
Pardon?
I'm about to head off.
Yeah, same. So that's two people that are left. And
It doesn't take 2.5 hours to.
We're good, we're nearly there, mate.
unanimous board decision.
Well, it was always going to take a long time, I thought.
Space.
Yeah, but it's the
And
process.
Faye, I'm going to call a division too, so you might want to bring that up.
We're all going to vote yes. What's the problem?
I'm going to vote no to the first line, but yes.
Pardon?
Are we doing this?
It just shows who's present.
Or I'm out of here.
Yeah, I'm out
Sorry, I'm
of
out of
here too. I'm out of here too.
Debbie, do you want to have a look at it again and make sure what's up there? Because
Otherwise, I'm happy to second.
Get Andre to second it.
Yeah, happy to second.
Okay.
Staff undertake a corridor study, take away our comprehensive. Then we're done.
Um,
Oh, no, I can't second. I'm about to head off. Someone else has to second.
Okay.
No, well, I'm about
So take that.
investigate, further study.
Okay, comprehensive.
I can't vote for the first, but I can vote for Tyler.
Seconded.
I'm not going to go.
Andre and I are leaving now.
It depends how.
Should have got half an hour ago.
I'm about to.
Yeah, that's all right, cool.
We're not allowed to.
Who seconded it? Debbie or Andre?
But they're both leaving, so.
If you're happy to second it.
Oh, look.
All right, yeah. No, I'm happy to second it.
Good. So we've got Tyler and Marie, is
Yep.
that right?
Yep.
Okay.
And I'm,
So we'll
I'm
put,
making
No, I'm not happy with that.
sorry,
I'm not
I'm
happy
making,
with that.
sorry, I'm making a request that you put it in two parts. The first part in blue or black, and the second part that Tyler's put.
it's at the bottom.
As a group.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought that during our discussion earlier, when other people were out of the room, that we were only going to vote for option 1 or 4 without speed bumps.
We are.
Now we're adding these other things in.
I've emailed that 2 hours
I'm
before the
happy
meeting.
with that,
Yeah.
which I didn't have
check your
access
emails.
to.
So
Can we separate them so we can vote on something today?
Yes, I didn't have access to them.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tyler has,
If you want, if you haven't reached out.
excuse me,
Somebody
Floor.
rang me and told me about it.
Tyler has moved it and I have seconded it. So, we'll put it for motion, put it to motion.
Please.
Can we have a debate on this?
Yes. Debate. Tyler first as mover.
I'm only going to do one. First of all, I want to thank all of the Dean's Ave residents, the Dean's Ave Precinct Society. I can't name favourites, but you're up the top there. No offence, thanks. I'd like to address the issues that we've had across multiple sections of Dean's Ave. And it's been a long time coming. And I want to also acknowledge staff for the huge amount of work that they're doing, not across just Dean's Ave, but all across the network, and utilising the craft money to make sure that it's good bang for buck. We're adding safety improvements across all of the corridor, but we know that there needs to be ratepayer funds that come for that. And Dean's Ave deserve that investment. Now, I'd also like to say that I'm really baffled by the pedestrian numbers, actually by the report that was provided by staff. I didn't realise it was that high. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can do in terms of the amendment that I've put up. I physically witnessed a near miss of a 3-year-old girl outside the mosque. So not implementing speed bumps is actually quite a difficult thing for me to do. However, I'm here to gain consensus and get this thing across the line, because I know that I may or may not have the numbers, of which I just want to get this across the line because our residents deserve it. Now, this is better than the status quo. This is better than having nothing there. hence why I'm willing to work together with the board and the community to make sure we find some good ground that works in a proactive manner. Now, the Dean's Air program is sorely needed, and Claire and Tony have been extremely, and Grant have been extremely vigilant in the way that they've been navigating what is civic engagement and bureaucracy and red tape. So I'm looking forward to getting this done. Thanks to all the residents, thanks to everyone turning up, and thanks to staff for all of your amazing work. Kia ora.
Thank you, Tyler. Mark.
Thank you. Wow, what a process this has been tonight. And I really do hope that going forward we can find a way to not get stuck in this debacle again. I'd like us to figure a way where it's split between two boards. Perhaps the representation review next year might be a way to try and move the boundaries from middle of roads to one side of the road or the other so that we don't get this sort of thing going on. Whatever. Or if it's a decision like this where it's split between two boards and it's potentially either side, that we can that pardon?
Ghost.
Or decide early that perhaps the best place to decide this might be a council where we can try and get it right. One of the frustrations here is seeing the southbound side decided by one board, and through that I think there's probably general consensus around this table to a large degree, or at least a majority, that we would have done something different on the other side of the road. But now we're stuck with it because the board has decided it. So that, to me, that's really messy democracy in action. Hopefully we can get that sorted out going forward. I'm really happy to see this crossing going outside the mosque. It is something that our board decided many years ago as a priority, and it's going to be good to see it getting put in place. I'm pleased that we've managed to, as our board resolve, that perhaps the speed bump shouldn't be there at this stage and we can go ahead without it, and then we can add it later if we find that we do need it. I think that's pragmatic, and I'm really happy to see Tyler responding to his community so well with the extra amendments there to have the extra corridor study done. I think that's vital, because that area of Deans Ave South it's a mess, and it's going to be good down the track to find a way to get a project to actually look at that and try and make that whole Deans Ave South safer, because it needs to be. We owe it to the community to get that right. And apologies for the long meeting tonight. And hopefully we can get this built, get it underway, and get what we need in front of the mosque to make it safer.
We're not yet finished. We still got another agenda.
I know that.
Really important item.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Helen.
Yes, I support fully the mosque's request for a good crossing, but I'm having problems voting for the first part of this. I'm particularly concerned at the traffic flows, particularly on the southern side, which isn't our side. I support speed humps, but not the actual build out. So I did suggest at our briefing that we looked at traffic lights. I was told at the briefing they were too expensive. When I asked that question tonight, I'm told it's just that they hadn't considered it, and probably the residents didn't want it. So I would have liked to have the traffic option tabled. It's worked okay at Girls High School, doesn't stop the traffic, girls get across, it's safe. But so I can't support the first grouping, but I can support all of Tyler's amendments, and I thank him for in fact doing that. Thank you. I ask it be put in two parts.
Great. Thank you, Helen. I've got Debbie next.
Yes, it has been a long process, and the first time that this has happened in my 12 years. So I do thank the staff for coming and giving us some clarification and some clarity on this process. It was unfortunate that option 2 didn't come to us with any plans to make any decision on. However, because there are the two boards, as we know, our hands were forced, and however we've come to a really good compromise. And so thank you, Councillor Peters and the rest of the board, for agreeing to look at this without speed humps, as we know that this is a lot of frustration from the public, and also it assists with traffic flow. to not have them there. So I'll be supporting this.
Right. Thank you, Debbie. Anybody else? Andre?
Well, what I think is great for community engagement is someone says, well, now why is there a speed hump on one side but not the other?
That's right.
Ah, wow.
Yeah.
It's two different community boards. One of the others is, isn't that interesting? Maybe I could get engaged with this. How good is that? What would have been even better for community engagement is if we had half a medium somehow constructed. That would have been even better for community engagement. Someone say, how does that happen? But that would have been a terrible outcome. So this is a great compromise. Well done.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Andre. Anybody else? No, I'll put the motion. All those.
No,
in-
no, hang on.
Oh,
In two parts.
thank you.
No.
No, I asked for two
The
parts.
motion has been moved and the motion has been seconded.
But I said
It's on the
I
You can ask to
table.
be,
in two
you
parts.
can vote against parts of
you
it.
can vote against parts.
Yeah, that's what I'm
You
asking.
mean you want to
Vote
Motion
against
to-
five.
Sorry.
All right,
Sorry.
okay. So we are voting on 1 to
1 to 6.
6. Right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against?
No, and I'll have my vote recorded, please.
And I'm sure Gamal will agree with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey.
I heard
Yeah,
it.
he'll be happy.
You voted to have half a crossing built, not half of the road. Got to make sure you got your name on that one.
7 and 8.
7 and 8, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Well done.
Thank you.
Now, on, next item.
It's done anyway.
Everybody,
Thank you.
Can I just push the procedure for the next one and just, walk out the door? Yeah.
they're leaving.
Yeah.
You having a bad day? You having a bad day?
Ah, I just think, I just think complete waste of. Thank you, Megan.
Yes.
The whole.
For the members, can I have an indication?
We have achieved.
Still have one more item in the agenda, and then we have an info session after this. Can I have an indication that everybody will still be here?
Yes.
Yes, yes. Yes, we still have an info session after this one.
Oh, I'm.
It won't be long. It's a quick one.
I'm here for the vote on, the other
I've
item.
got a spare. I think I got a spare.
Yeah, well, I've got a spare.
But there was another one?
Yeah.
It's just,
Go on, brother.
Marianne on the info session, just
Nick
one.
from somewhere else, that's all right.
If you prefer to get this next item done, and then I'll come back and tag my info session on the end of it.
But she's here already.
Well, I don't see anything wrong with it. I think we'll just get it over the line, right? We'll just move it in second.
Okay, so we'll go on to Brockworth now.
Friday.
Right.
Deputation.
Oh. Oh, we have a deputation for Brockworth. Can I please call on Claire Malcock, Secretary? Will speak on behalf of the gallery, public gallery, please be quiet. We are starting a deputation on, for, which one is this? Brockworth. Great. Welcome, Claire.
Thank you. And I'd just like to note that I'm actually speaking on behalf of Adrian Scott, who lives actually in this Brockworth South Place, but she's unable to be here tonight. I've got some notes that she's sent me, and I will record that I did live down that end for maybe 15 years. So it's not that far from where I live now too. And I've got a pictures.
You've got a presentation. Hold on. We're just setting it up. Sure that it's coming. And yeah, we're just sharing the presentation with in Zoom. Dawn?
Just wait, Claire. We just need to share the screen and you'll be able to click through. On the right, please.
Yes, okay. All good? Yep. Okay, Claire, you can start. Next screen. Next slide.
Switched on clear?
Yeah. Okay, so it's really great, and I'm going to partly read the notes Adrian sent me, and I'm going to just talk to a little bit. So it's great to have the opportunity to have the CRAF funding to make these improvements at the southern end of Brockworth Place. So we thank you for that. And I note that this particular project upgrade was in the works program in 2011 prior to the earthquakes, and that was for the whole of Brockworth Place. So it's great to have at least part of it finally happening. And I'll just show you these few pictures to set the scene. So this, as you can see, under Gamal there is Dean's Avenue to the right, and
This is a point of reference.
and the stretch is that's the stretch of road that's going to be upgraded.
Right.
And right, so this is the intersection here with Dean's Avenue. Got another one here. So I just wanted to talk briefly about how the pedestrians and cyclists use this corner. The yellow arrows show where the crossing is into the park, and cyclists and pedestrians who cross there cross onto that side of the road and then use that way. They don't go along down to the corner and then across. So it does mean that I believe that the new crossing will be useful for pedestrians because they'll just zoom around the corner and down there. Cyclists probably won't because, as someone's already pointed out, narrow footpath, Dean's Avenue is hazardous, and then they'd have to somehow get off their bikes to cross the crossing. So they'll probably continue to cross there. So we're really keen so that's part of the thing we need to look at. And that's just showing you the crossing point there. You can't actually quite see it, but it's a Staples, old Staples one.
Yeah.
I think that's all the pictures I've got. So there's support for the recommendations, the main recommendations about replacing the curb, the 9-metre road width, parking on both sides, reconstruction, the sumps and all this fantastic stormwater stuff, and nice wide footpath and the berm plantings, and really happy with that. But the changes proposed at the entrance are a bit of a concern. According to the information provided by the staff, the design option is based on the New Zealand design criteria, but we don't think that one size fits all. And we think this is quite an unusual situation with a big park on one side and residential on the other side. So we're not sure that it needs to be, maybe the design guidelines may be not quite right for this situation. We're not aware of any documentation of any pedestrian injuries at the intersection, nothing in the report that said that, saying that the current road layout at that intersection is safe for pedestrians. Currently, there's no stop sign or give way. The road rules at the T intersection apply and they seem to work pretty well. So I've showed you the picture of how people move into the park and they cross before they get to the corner. So an issue of the narrowing of the road in the new design is a bit of a contention because, and as well, the stop sign. And I think the speed humps there as well.
There is.
So the other concern the residents at that end have particularly is that the narrowing will mean that there's only one lane for the cars going left and obviously coming in, and that's going to result in a queuing problem because there is room under the current thing, we think, to have two lanes, but the cars don't always get in the right, somebody stops in the middle because they're not got the brain engaged, and then the people can't turn left because they're waiting for someone to turn right. So the really keen to have not as narrow at that entrance, but some room for two people to be moved into two bits. And So the other thing was, it seems again, this is isolated from the new crossing, the discussions on the new crossing as well. And I won't go into that. I think we've traversed that but quite a bit tonight. But the impact of the vehicles getting in and out, which is that 2-lane thing. So we think there is an opportunity to keep that wider and let people in and out more easily. A few other points. These are somewhat minor or easier to do, perhaps. The parking restrictions on the Deans Avenue to the west, especially on that side of the road. It's hard to see out. People park. They're just white, sort of what. There's a white diagonal thing. Cars park. It's not no stopping, and people park where they shouldn't, but it's really hard to see out around there. So we think there might be a bit better marking could go there. And I think our area, we've got a lot of tenanted properties, a lot of small units. Putting grass on berms is not terribly satisfactory because people don't have any lawn themselves. They don't have a mower. A lot of them the units are owned by a whole lot of different people. There's nobody who actually takes control for. So if there are any other inexpensive options, or not putting new areas of grass in, we would be strongly in favour of that. So just maybe just summary. So to not reduce the opening you don't reduce the opening and paint on it 3 lanes with arrows. Stop or give way signs are not necessary. They're included in the design. We don't have them at the moment. The other side streets don't have them. But we do really look forward to the smooth road and the footpaths and the new drains and no more surface flooding. That would be fantastic. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Claire. Do I have any questions? I've got Mark. Okay.
So I'm hearing you clearly there that you'd perhaps like that garden area that's at the entrance to Brockworth to be perhaps straight lined. So the curb
at least quite a lot smaller. If I can go back to the pictures, I can show you where
I'm sorry, it's hang on.
Oh, don't worry, sorry. There's a narrow one there at the moment.
Yep.
You might probably remember from the pictures, and the one that's put in the plan is quite a lot bigger.
Yeah. And with that, potentially the speed hump being removed would be.
I think that would help as well.
And then with that, if we needed to put a control in there, would you be happy with a give way than a stop?
Yes, give way would definitely be preferable to a stop, because people are moving often. It's that intersection, especially turning left into slow traffic, and so you can tell where the traffic's coming from, and if there's a gap, and especially to the south of this, you've got 2 gaps. You want several people to be able to get through at once, not each one having to come up and stop and then move on.
Makes sense. Excellent. Well, thank you. I think when staff come to the table, we can ask them some questions around this and get some answers one way or the other.
All right. Anybody else? Helen.
If you don't have grass, would you have green concrete or something like that?
I don't know, Helen, but please don't put in expensive trees because they won't be looked after either.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what the answer is. I did discuss this with staff, with Anne earlier and during the consultation. So she might have come up with some good ideas.
It's fine. Thank you.
No pressure, Anne.
If there are no more questions, no further questions for Claire. Thank you, Claire.
Yes.
And now I will call on staff. Back to you, Anne.
Barry.
And Barry.
Oh, and Andrew. Yeah. Ooh.
Oh, and Andrew, welcome back to the table.
Yeah, good on you. We won't treat you that badly,
Anne. So for this one, we've actually got no presentation. I think it's a really straightforward street renewal. So happy to take the report as read and answer any questions.
I've got a quick question first, and then Mark, and then Tyler, and Helen. Hang on. Mark, Tyler, and then just for clarification, I was looking at the plan, just can you confirm that the parking ticks shown on the plan are new?
Yeah,
They're not labeled and then they're not described in the summary of the proposal. Parking ticks to be painted
in the resolution.
or is it on the
in section 3.2,
3.2?
bullet 8.
Oh, there it is. Found it. Yes, parking ticks on both sides of Brockworth Place. Okay, lovely. Thank you. Go on, Mark.
Sort of follow up on the deputation that we've just heard around the residents' desire to have that entrance widened a bit so that we can have the sort of extra queuing availability for left and right. Is that a possibility we can have that?
Yeah, it's certainly possible. It's a trade-off though, because one of the main objectives of the project is to improve pedestrian safety. So whilst that is a logical thing to do from a road capacity point of view, it does reduce the safety for people wanting to cross the street at that point, because you've obviously got the north-south footpath there. So they have a longer crossing to make.
An extra couple of meters.
To do that for the benefit of improving the capacity on the approach.
The other disbenefits are that it does increase vehicle speeds turning, which is an additional risk to pedestrians and other road users. The other point I'd make too is that I would question the need for what we call two-lane discharge out of Brockworth Place. It's not a typical situation where a local road would need that. That's more of a higher volume treatment. So yeah, they're the main concerns. Is certainly those vehicle speeds in and out significantly change the narrower the road is. So as it very indicated, that's a trade-off. Yes.
And okay, so in changing the stop control for a giveaway, is that possible?
It's based on visibility, so that's a technical standard. So at the moment, in practice, there is actually a giveaway control there by way of current road use.
Rules.
My understanding of how the stop was put forward is to bring the intersection up to current best practice, and we've heard about the volumes and the importance of Dean's Ave in particular. And I think that was from memory why we put forward the stop control in recognition of the reason and importance that people should stop rather than roll through.
Do you think people will obey it if we put a stop on them?
It's probably the safer option if visibility is limited. And I think we heard from one of the residents to say that visibility was limited at that intersection. A giveaway in effect does mean stop if you can't see and the way isn't clear anyway. But I wouldn't say it's essential, but it would be better practice to do so. A safer option.
And I guess it just adds to the general intent of calming traffic in that environment. So if drivers are confronted with a stop sign, it should influence their approach and decelerate appropriately rather than cruise through, you might say. So it's just more also a safety benefit from a street speed.
Happy, Mark?
I guess so.
Right. Okay, Tyler, next.
We brought up a really interesting point around the grass berms, and I get that, particularly with the new intensification. Are there any substitutes that we'd be able to think about?
So what we did was we, with our detailed design designer, we had a look down the whole of Brockworth Place, and it was after speaking to Claire initially and looking at taking on board this quite a high level of rental properties in this street. And we also received a submission from the property owner on the corner on the benders, and that is three rental properties, and that's currently planted in native grasses. Works really well because there's no maintenance on them, and generally people that rent property also don't tend to have lawnmowers. So we had a look at what was there now. So where there are, I guess, berms that are planted or not well maintained, we will put in a similar type of really low maintenance planting that doesn't grow over footpaths, but doesn't require someone to come out with a lawnmower and mow. There are also a number of berms along here that are well maintained, and they're mown. And so we've sort of done it by visually what's on the street, where we can see they've been maintained grass back, where they're not, and there'll be some that have like just a whole pile of dirt. So we thought that's obviously not being maintained, so we'll put some sort of planting there. What sort of beautiful planting? I don't know because I'm not into that. But yeah, definitely. I guess horses for courses and looking at what's happening on the street now more than just putting in grass berms, which we know, especially with rental properties, and as Claire mentioned, just won't be maintained.
Yeah. So on the plans, there's a bit of agility in the way that you can.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And we've sort of what's on the plan for approval is pretty much what we've done from a visual aspect with the designer, where we've seen where we would recommend planting versus existing grass to remain, and we propose grass. So
great.
Probably the greens are probably not quite out that well, but yeah, so it will be based on how the street is.
Okay.
Well, just worth mentioning, we talked about potential retaining 3 lanes at this end. We did struggle to find locations for new trees. So an implication, if we did retain the existing width there, we couldn't fit in the 2 trees around them.
You're putting trees in, or?
Yeah,
on the corner.
Yeah, and up
the
on the
detail
board,
in new intersections.
But 2 here and 2 here, all of them.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I've got actually. I'm good.
Thank you, Tyler. Helen?
I had an issue about the grass. So you're basically going to put grass where appropriate and native bushes where appropriate.
And recognition that it is a high rental area,
Okay.
and we're not wanting to create.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Just a quick one. You mentioned about the trees. So there are 4 coming in, and that includes the ones because you're taking out from the median.
Yeah, so
replacing.
So take one out, put 2 in. So because this is within the vicinity of the median line, these are the tree removal.
Thanks for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, because I was wondering where the 2 would go when you take out 1, and then so it's in here.
Yeah, so
going on the Riccarton side.
yeah.
Yes, the Riccarton side.
You get 4 not 1.
All right. Oh, any further questions? Right? No? All right. Thank you, staff. And we will.
I'm happy to move the staff rec.
Right. Moved by Tyler, seconded by Hank. Any debate? Mark?
Yep. I do appreciate the deputation that was brought, and I did hear your concern. I have got areas in my ward where these type releases for streets have been put in place, and residents are forever trying to battle to get the build outs in the garden that's been put in place taken out, so that they can allow the release of left and right together, rather than having the queuing happening with the right and the left having to wait behind them because they can't get out. So I do sympathise fully with what you're saying, and it's a shame that we really, I guess, don't have an option to redesign to allow that dual release. So I guess really on the basis of that, I will struggle to support the staff rec on this one, because I know that we're creating a problem that we're going to have to try and address later. And we'll be battling for the next 20 years probably to try and get the back to what it should have been. So thank you to staff for all your work on this. It will be good to get this piece of road renewed. It's obviously long overdue when it was planned pre-earthquake. So to get this happening through CRAF is a good thing, because it helps us in the way of budgets. But really, because we don't have the ability to be agile enough on that intersection, I won't be able to support it. So.
Thank you, Mark. Tyler?
I love when Claire comes because she always talks sense. But I have to support the recommendation given before us because of a few things. The first one is on Curlitz Road, and we've already talked about this in the past around that child that was run over while he was on a scooter. I'm actually installing one of these or a speed bump in that area to try and calm down the momentum that shifts from a car going around a corner blindly and then hitting a pedestrian that uses that crossing point. So it'll be extremely hard for me to support that knowing what I know. And the whole Brockworth Place, whole of Brockworth Place needs to be reshifted and upgraded. And we've talked about this before actually around the whole area, how only one piece of the pie is being sorted out while there's so much more left to go. We need to continue to keep trying to work on that. And, you know, I can't do it alone. I have to do it with the community behind me. So I'm loving seeing this. Craft's taking too long to do. $1.9 million could have been $1.4 million last year, probably, which means that we've had a few less wins. Yeah, that's right. So I'm keen to get this and the shovel in the ground and see where we land. But we've still got a lot more work to do in the future to make sure that this area is well catered to. So thanks everyone for coming in, and I'm keen to get moving on it.
Thank you, Tyler. Anybody else wants to say?
Well, I'm happy to approve it, subject to, I won't put it in writing, but subject to there being grass and native bushes. Yeah, right. Yeah, because I think, yeah, I can understand if people are tenants, they aren't doing those booms. And the whole of Brockworth Place needs doing. Actually, I went down there yesterday, very busy. I was surprised, it's grown in the last 2 years, basically, in terms of numbers and people.
Busy, all right?
Okay. All right. So we've got recommendations 1 to 13. We'll move it as a block. And I'll put the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against?
No.
Do you want to have it recorded? Yes. Mark? Right. Okay. Gamal?
Is he still there?
Yeah. Did we hear you, Gamal? I didn't hear you. Did you vote?
I did.
You did. Yeah.
In favour?
In favor.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, cool. And so that brings us to the end, and we are not having an info session anymore.
Okay.
Good. Right. We'll just bring it up.
Thanks so much. It's waiting for that. They'll cut a key either.
You must not.
Oh, I can do it. Kia whakairia te tapu, kia wātea ai te ara, kia tura ki whakataha ai, kia tura ki whakataha ai. Haumie, huie.
Thank you.
Easy.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Those.
Smile, is that you done?
That you think, Gamal, for tomorrow?
Thank you.
Did he want to add anything?
We'll see you tomorrow, Gamal.
I go on.